those being he drives back up, visits family in his hometown on his way to Omaha to stay on an every 5 days rotation when Cole Reagans comes back from his rehab start. Looks like Cameron's going to get one more start at least in the rotation. Cole Reagans is going to have a rehab start and then probably join the rotation if everything is fine. So is he sent back to Omaha? Is Michael Lorenzen sent to the bullpen? Do they do a six-man staff? Or do they look at what they have, a strength and a weakness, and try to fantasy baseball another team's strength and weakness to figure out a match that do you trade an arm for a bat?
Yeah.
While also getting ready to bring up Jack. So maybe adding two bats and losing maybe minimal ground with the starting staff. Because if they do, the maxed value in return right now would be Noah Cameron over Michael Lorenzen.
Yes.
I don't think they want to trade Chris Bubich. I don't think they want to trade Cole Reagans. They're not going to trade Michael Wacha. Seth Lugo is a different conversation. Noah Cameron's a different conversation. And Michael Lorenzen's a different conversation. Lorenzen is easily the third of the value. He's the least valuable of those three guys.
Correct.
Some teams may view Lugo as the most valuable. Proven commodity.
Sure.
Some teams may view Cameron as the most valuable with 6 years after this year of team control. Should the Royals, I'll say the answer is yes. Should the Royals be examining trade possibilities for a bat with team control, not a rent-a-player, a bat with team control for a few years to a contender that needs pitching? And maybe that's, unfortunately, an emotional connection with Noah Cameron.
So that's the most intriguing one. I'm in two camps. I'm in either you look for a trade or you keep a six-man rotation. You know my thoughts on the six-man. I've been perpetrating that for a while now.
I'm close to that camp, but I'm in the camp of Noah Cameron stays in the rotation regardless. Figure out if it's a six-man rotation or Lorenzen goes to the bullpen.
Agreed.
I can't take I'm trying to win a division. I'm trying to go to the playoffs.
Yes.
I can't take Noah Cameron out of this rotation right now.
And I also think that I would give Lorenzen at least a couple more starts before I did that, because if an injury happens, who you calling up? Who's the guy in the minors that you feel really comfortable about? That's your depth piece.
I mean, maybe if Alec Marsh starts to get healthier,
Kyle Wright, but you're still a little bit away from that. That's why I said for me, I'd go to a six-man for a little bit. If Lorenzen keeps struggling, then I would potentially move him into the bullpen role. But I do think you should, and the Royals should, explore trades. Whether it's Lorenzen, I know that's going to be the first name that Royals fans will bring up because you always overvalue your guys and try and get back something more in return. That's human nature. But more than likely, it's Noah Cameron. And the reason why I say you should look, this is going to be the hottest he's probably ever going to be on the market. Because even if they send him to Omaha, I think if they send him back to Omaha, that to me screams they're looking as a trade partner. Because now you go, look what he's done. Look what he's done.
We're going to protect him. We're not going to overexpose him.
You're not going to overexpose him. Look at what he's done. He's got 4 starts, a 1.05 ERA. I guess at that point he probably have one more start in him. So 5 starts, I'm assuming still a solid ERA.
It'll be 6 1/3 and 1 run.
And so I'm
sitting here put money on that.
I'm sitting here going, this might be the highest his value is ever going to be. We've seen guys, you can't trade Sean Manaea. You can't trade Brandon Finnegan. Look what he did in the playoffs, man.
Yeah, right.
You can't trade that guy. And then you realize, no, we sold high. The Royals sold high on those guys.
You can't trade MJ Melendez. He's a catcher that's going to hit 30 home runs. You don't trade a guy who can catch and hit 30 home runs. Those guys are rare. You don't touch MJ Melendez.
So
maybe you should have traded MJ Melendez.
I don't think Noah Cameron's going to have this massive fallback.
Yeah.
A lot of again, take a drink, underline numbers.
Also, Noah Cameron's done it at the big leagues.
Look,
that was MJ as a prospect.
So I'm not saying just trade him for the sake of trading him. I'm saying if you can get back a really good piece, controllable piece, not even a Taylor Ward. I would not right now. I wouldn't do Taylor Ward. I think he's got 1 year left on his contract.
He's a free agent after 26.
So again, I think your name of Kobe Mayo is the guy I'm always going to go back to because I think it's the easy one that we've talked to because we know the control is there and the top prospect pedigree and all that stuff. I don't know, but I do think that if he goes back to Omaha, that tells me the Royals are looking at trade partners, and they're not trying to overexpose him. But if it were me, if I get a good offer, strong-ass offer in the words of Will Wade,
absolutely,
I think you're going to have to make a move that hurts, and that would hurt. But right now, the Royals' pitching staff is so good. Maybe the fact that Waka and Lugo are older keeps you from doing that because you're still thinking future, even though you are in a win now mode. You're still thinking some of the future, although Waka has a 3-year deal.
Yeah. Yep.
And Lugo's is he on his final year?
Lugo's in final year.
Final year.
He's going to opt out. I mean, he's not. I think it's a mutual option or it's a player option. Either way, it's not just that the Royals can pick up the option and you're fine.
But I'm glad you brought that up because he's pitched so good, and you know it's going to be one of those situations where the initial pushback is going to be you can't trade him. Trade Lorenzen. You can't trade Noah Cameron.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is every team is not a Royals fan. They understand they want Cameron, not Lorenzen.
You would be looking at somebody. So this morning, Buster Olney brought up the Dodgers and said, you want to talk about a plethora of talent in the field and at the plate, obviously, and in desperate need of pitching, that they just have so many different injuries. And if you're looking at that, then, okay, so what would the possibilities be if you were to move on from him? Well, if you were to trade a guy like Noah Cameron to maximize the value. The name that I would think of would be the Dodgers' best prospect that's closer to the big leagues. Best prospect whose ETA is this year. And that's Alex Freeland, who plays on the left side of the infield, plays shortstop and third base. I don't know if he's a guy that, okay, well, now let's trade for this guy and convert him into an outfielder, right? I mean, we get into those things all the time. But at AAA so far, he's OPSing at 830 this year. He was drafted in 2022. He's getting on base. He's averaging 276. He gets on base at 377. Widely viewed as some of the best, quote, swing decisions in all of minor leagues is Alex Freeland. But again, at shortstop, third base, he's a top 50 prospect in all of baseball. There's just really no place for him right now if you want to look at like what the Dodgers need. They need pitching. They need pitching. They don't need to bring up another hitter. Like the Orioles, they need pitching. They don't just need to bring up another hitter and another hitter. And the top prospects for the Dodgers are their top prospects are a couple of years away. So if you're looking at like, okay, well, let's go get the number one prospect for the Dodgers. Okay, the top 20 prospect in Dalton Rushing. Well, he's an outfielder that
slash catcher. He's been called up, I think.
Yeah, he's been around the big leagues. Is that a guy that they would be willing to move on from? I don't know. So far in Oklahoma City in AAA, he's OPSing at 938.
Yeah, Dalton Rushing would be a fun name. I mean,
if they're willing to do that, I don't know that that's a name that you're getting for Noah Cameron. That's what I'm saying. It's a top 20 prospect for Noah Cameron. You would have to have the Dodgers in desperate or dire straits and say, we'll give you Noah Cameron, but we want Dalton Rushing. No, thank you. Okay, then we'll stay with Noah Cameron. You continue to try to find pitching.
Can I throw you a name out there that's already in the majors right now?
Yeah, sure.
Who's not getting a lot of playing time?
Yeah.
There was a highly touted guy from South Korea, Hae-Sung Kim.
Yeah. Hi.
I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I apologize, but I believe it's Hae-Sung Kim. He plays all over outfield, infield. He's like a super utility guy.
Yeah.
He's only had 41 at bats because, again, you have Tommy Edman, who's thriving this year. He's batting 366.
Yeah. Conforto's been awful this year.
Yeah,
so I think Kim might be playing more for Conforto. Like, it's going to get to a point to where they just have to bench Conforto. He's batting like 170. They keep throwing him out there, but you're gonna have to find somebody for
But then they have Dalton Rushing if you want to use that. You have Enrique Kiki Hernandez. Tommy Edman can play outfield as well if you want to move, Miguel Rojas into second. I mean, the Dodgers are just plush with so many different talented players.
Yeah. But you're looking like, I think it would be more realistic if you're saying a guy that can get to the big leagues this year that you feel like is somebody that can help out for at least one tool. He gets on base. And it's not just like he gets on base with, again, one of his strengths is viewed as some of the best swing decisions in all of minor league baseball. Again, shortstop, third base, so maybe he's athletic enough to move to the outfield. I don't know. Maybe Garcia moves to the outfield. You put him at third base. I hate to keep moving guys around, but that's the situation you're in right now.
Yeah.
But that's a guy that is a top 50 prospect, their number 4 prospect, that it would probably take Noah Cameron and maybe somebody else in your system to grab him. But to get Dalton Rushing, it's going to take probably Noah Cameron and maybe Blake Mitchell, or Noah Cameron, Ben Kudrna, or Noah Cameron and Michael Lorenzen. Like, if you're going to get Dalton Rushing, like, you're going to have to really invest and help out the Dodgers pitching if they're going to give up a guy like that.
I guess for me, what I would say is I get where you're coming from, but I would 100% go with Hai-Sung Kim and then try and also bring back because I don't think that would be, just Noah Cameron. And I would try and see if you can get a Gavin Stone, someone who's already injured.
Yeah,
because, you know what I'm saying? Because then you can also throw in because the Royals will eventually need pitching. You're not going to get, Roki Sasaki, but can you get River Ryan? Can you get Gavin Stone? Could you get, I'm trying to think of another name, Michael Grove? Can you get Brusar Gradwell's now a bullpen piece, I believe, so you're not going with that. But, again, I think you could get almost a 2-for-1. Try and get someone back in your pitching staff that's injured for the Dodgers that they need to part with, and then you bring back a outfielder, super utility guy who gets on base, at least this year, at a 366 clip, or hitting at a 366 clip.
I mean, he's a utility guy, and he's played a little bit of the outfield, but he's mainly middle infield or mainly second base. Again,
and Massey's been brutal.
I was going to say, again, wouldn't be the worst thing if you bring in a guy that gets on base and plays second base. But I don't know that I'm giving up Noah Cameron for Kim. You know what I mean?
That's why you have the sweetener. You have the pitching former top prospect who's injured right now. Yeah. You throw in the sweetener. Again, I'm not saying I don't know if I would do it either, but I'm saying I think these are the things that the Royals should be looking inquiring.
If I'm JJ, I call and say, what's it take for Dalton Rushing? And then when they say Jack Caglione, you say, okay, no, seriously, what's it going to take for, Dalton Rushing? Again, I go back to my previous question. And then if it's too rich, then you say, okay, what about Freeland? What's it going to take for him? And then you find out what that might be and if he's a guy that may fit in profiling with what you want. A switch hitter that gets on base, at a 360, 370 clip. And yes, that will come back to the pack in Major League Baseball. Okay, a switch hitter that can play the left side of the infield and maybe some other spots that could get on base at 350 or 360 and is going to make the other pitchers work. He's not just going to go up there and be a free swinger if that's a concern and an issue that people have with Jack Caglione. Okay, well, you're bringing up Jack Caglione that can hit maybe 40 home runs, and you're bringing in this guy Freeland who's going to get on base, who's going to bat maybe in front of him, and now you're going to have him leading off, then Bobby, then Vinny, then Jack, then maybe Garcia or Salvi or India later on. And your offense all of a sudden looks a little bit different than it does right now. These are the things that have to be explored if we're having a serious conversation of what this Royals team can do this year and moving forward, but also with the understanding, Sterling, that Lugo might be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Because if you're trying to help 2025, are you killing or hurting 2026? Because Lugo's gone, and if you trade Noah Cameron, Lorenzen's on a 1-year deal. You could quickly go from should you have a 6-man rotation to you've got 2 or 3. I mean, Reagans, Bubic, and Waka. Lugo gone, Cameron traded, Lorenzen walking.
Yeah, it's tough. It makes the Noah Cameron move even more, at least the thought process, way more difficult for JJ than I think it traditionally would be.
And way more important that you'd better get it right if you do that.
Correct.
But I also think we should acknowledge the possibility of Lugo being a guy that could be shopped. If you believe in Noah Cameron that much, do you believe in 6.5 years, left of Noah Cameron versus a half year left, or 2/3 of a season left of Seth Lugo. If he can get you back what Cameron's getting back for a team that's trying to win a World Series right now, what would Lugo mean to the Dodgers? How much would they give up a Dalton Rushing? Here's Lugo and Kudrna. There's Dalton Rushing. Okay. Is that what it takes? Well, now you've got Waka, Reagans, and Bubic as your top three that can go into a playoff series this year if you make it. You're just replacing Lugo with Bubic in what you had last year.
I'll tell you what, though. This is so much more damn fun than talking about the Royals 10 years ago. Well, not 10 years ago.
It was pretty badass.
5 years ago.
Because 10 years ago, do you trade Brandon Finnegan? Are you willing? What's it worth to give up 6 years of control with Brandon Finnegan?
Yeah.
You've got all these. You got Manaya. Are you willing to
5 years ago? Sorry, 7 years ago.
Are you willing to completely eviscerate your minor leagues to try to win this year?
Hey, flags fly forever.
Yeah, they do. Forever. No matter what. It's forever. Like the apocalypse.
Whose lips?
The end of the world, sort of an Armageddon type.
Nuclear war.
If
That's
that were to
all
happen,
of this segment, folks.
the flags would still fly. Cockroaches, Twinkies, and flags would fly until the Earth were to then run into the sun one day. We'll take a time out. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. We know who's going to talk today at 1 o'clock for the Chiefs. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. It'll be Isaiah Pacheco, Xavier Worthy, and George Karlaftis. George Karlaftis. So you've got Pacheco, hopefully a bounce-back year for him. Worthy, a growth year and an offseason from what we saw him do last year. And Karlaftis voted as the most underrated player at his position in the entire NFL. Not just underrated on his team.
I agree with.
So that's who we will hear from today. Practice starting at 11:20, so we might be seeing some videos coming out on the Twitters, the X's of different guys. Like, hey, here's
all rational, right?
Here's Josh Simmons walking. You know, things like that. Here's what
all
Travis
pro season
Kelce
incoming.
Here's what Travis Kelce looks like in what he would have worn to the Met Gala if he went. You know, things like that. I don't know if Kelce is even there. I actually don't know. I didn't even look up to see if Kelsey's there. But
Josh
whatever.
Simmons in shorts and he's walking. All pro incoming.
I mean, right? Hey, you know what? Jesse Newell, Mackley Hill Award prediction was Josh Simmons.
Wow.
It's been Soren's pick was Josh Simmons. Because essentially, if he's going to play, then he's going to be it. If he's good enough to beat out Jalen Moore and healthy to play, then he'll be your rookie of the year. Unless this is just one of the best draft classes ever, and Josh Simmons is good enough to play left tackle all year, but still Norman Lott or Gelati or Williams or Royals or Smith or Abasa is so much better that they win the award. That would be awesome. If Josh Simmons doesn't win it, but plays all year and is a good left tackle, it'd be great. I say you promote Brett Veach to GM.
You think he's ready?
Maybe a few more weeks in Omaha? Holmes, Isaiah Pacheco, Xavier Worthy, George Karloftis. Play those live right here on Sports Radio 810 at WHB. OTAs going on today. Joining us now, Kent Swanson, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. Kent, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing absolutely tremendous this week. I hope the same for you as well. Very excited OTAs are kicking off because, we need some sound bites, Jason.
100%. Yes, we absolutely do. And I always wonder, the way that people consume or look at OTAs, what are you going to be watching for some of these videos coming out outside of seeing if Caglione can homer today out there with the Chiefs? But what are you wanting to see besides 450-foot shots from Cags today from Patrick Mahomes?
Oh, I hope we get that. Everything Jack Caglione right now. I love to show off asking about Jack Caglione, and we are a Chiefs-only podcast. But mostly I just wanted to see if Maddie knew who he was.
Well, we hadn't mentioned Cags today, so I figured I needed to get it in somehow. It's been an hour.
I'm glad you did.
Thank you.
Can I sidebar us really quick? Because I've been thinking about this. I've been asking myself this. Are you more excited right now to be watching Jack Caglione or getting updates on Jack Caglione than you are the major league product? Because I find myself being more interested right now in what Jack's doing than what that 3-2 Royals game against Cincy is. Sorry, I know I'm sidebarring. I'm just curious.
No, I'll tell you what it is on what's today, Thursday? So Tuesday night, when it was the first game in Omaha with Jack and he had the press conference, and we had Steven and Bethany going up there to cover the press conference and talk to a bunch of guys around that. And they showed that game for free on MLB TV against St. Pete. And at 6:40 something is because the game started at 6:35, Royals started at 6:40. Both were home, so Jack didn't come up until the bottom of the first, and so it was like 6:40 something. I know this: the Royals game was on the TV, and on my iPad, my son and I were sitting there staring at the iPad when Jack Caglione came up to bat. I have no idea what was going on in the Royals game at that time, but I know exactly what happened in that at bat with those three pitches. So I don't know if that's specific when he's up. I care more at the time. If it was eighth inning, bases loaded, 3-3 game, Royals and Tigers, and Caglione was batting, I'd be watching the TV. But at that particular moment, we watched every single at bat of Caglione on Tuesday night with the free game.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I was away from the phone for a little bit last night, and I found myself trying to find out what Jack did yesterday. More than I did the score. So
3 for 4 with a double.
4, by the way,
with a double.
Exit velo over 100 a couple times. I'm not counting though.
Somebody his StatCast is. So it's about time that he had an extra base hit that wasn't a home run. I mean, just show that you can diversify your portfolio, right? I don't want singles and homers all the time. Give me a double from time to time. Mix it up. You know what I mean? Keep the pitchers on their toes. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, you keep momentum going. If you ask Rex Hudler, you're going to keep that momentum going. If you don't hit a bases clearing home run, you got to keep the line moving a little bit to keep that game pressure on. So, I mean, you got to mix it up every now and then.
You can't sneak a piece of cheese past a hungry Jack. Hey, baseball, you gots to go. So, what do let's start with just the generic, totally. Sort of shotgun spray question of hey, what do you look for in some of these videos that'll come out from OTAs that in the small snippets that the media is able to present to the masses?
I tend to. It's more, I love the photos, the photo gallery that you get from the Chiefs on OTAs. I'm more, probably not going to be as excited about the clip of slow-mo warm-ups of Patrick Mahomes throwing a warm-up line fade to Jalen Royals. I'm not going to be as excited about that. I'm not going to be over-analyzing the movement skills if Rashee Rice is there. Catching a slant and running in slow motion. I'm going to go, as soon as the photos of OTAs for the week are released, I'm going to go look at who's lining up where and who's in the rotation. Those are the things I'm always paying attention to. I'm going to try to see, we don't know what Josh Simmons will do. I'm sure we'll find out at some point here in the next couple hours, but I'll be paying attention to who's lining up where, who's getting run. At the nose tackle position, is Fabian Levette lining up next to Chris Jones? Those kind of things. I'm more fascinated in seeing like how the rotations and how the those players stack up, right, with where they all kind of sit in the rotation, if you will. Not that it always means something, but like I think you can kind of get some glimpses of who might be ahead of who in some of these situations. So that's something I'll be paying attention to.
You know, it's interesting you went defensive tackle because I honestly have no idea who's going to line up after Mike Pennell. If they're going to be in Brazil. My fear is that they go to Brazil Friday night against the Chargers, and you've got Hampton and you've got
Najee.
Yeah, thank you, Najee, who I think by week 2 will be Hampton, then Najee. I think they'll start off with Najee, then Hampton, but quickly that will get Hampton more carries. But my fear, Kent, is that it just first down, second down, third down, just handing the ball off, and that offensive line just pushing the defensive line back and the linebackers because it's sort of Pennell and Chris Jones is better at stopping the run. But not having those sort of anchors or unanchor there, that's where my nerves come in on that. And so I have been more focused on the defensive tackle, not named Chris Jones, ability to stop the run this offseason than I have been in any offseason because I think it matters this season and certainly game number 1 against a Chargers team that has a studly offensive line that is clearly invested in wanting to run the ball, and it's Harbaugh.
Yeah, I think first off, like, I think the nose tackle position in general is one of the more interesting ones. Like I think the Chiefs have given themselves a lot of types that can back up, a Mike Pennell, right? Mm-hmm. So you're looking at the Fabian Levet, the Siaki Ikas, the Marlon Tuipulotus. These are all guys that either have, talent that was draftable, talent that was, on a 53-man roster already, like both Siaki Ika and Tuipulotu.
Whatever you're saying, I'm going to take your word for it.
On the pronunciation?
Yeah, I'll just, whatever you said, I will absolutely take your word. Those are 2 different players, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely are. Tuipulotu was on the 53-man roster for like the majority of last season. Didn't really see a ton of run, but I think there's 2 things here. I think they have some interesting bodies that, like, I think it all comes out in the wash eventually, and somebody kind of rises to the top and is able to, be the Derek Nottie of this team in 2025. But I think the other thing worth paying attention to as well when you're talking about, the run defense is, yes, there's a need for a big, stout guy. But those guys, the movement skills on those guys aren't always as consistent either, right? So if you're going to try to run laterally, if you're going to try to run wide zone, some of the, difficulty displacing that a player like that becomes a lot more manageable because, it's just body placement now when you're moving more laterally. The other thing is last year's run defense with Chris Jones and Tershawn Wharton in the middle was not bad, right? So, like, there were, I understand the desire to have some stoutness at the nose tackle position, but this team has also kind of played, some smaller guys at one tack. The value of a Leo Chanel comes into play a little bit here with your ability to kind of disrupt run games too. But I think if the Chiefs, I feel comfortable with who they have, I guess, at this point. I don't think I'm super worried about their ability to stop the run, especially knowing how big of a priority Steve Spagnuolo has placed on it. I think stylistically they're just doing a little bit different than they have in the past.
I know I was joking about the name pronunciation, but is there a player in that group that maybe gets you more optimistic that he might grow into that? I think I'm hoping there's something there with Siaki Ika from Baylor. I hope there's something there because, like, his whole game is to anchor, right? I mean, can he take on a double team? I don't need him to be a disruptor. Like, I don't need a defensive tackle disruptor. I need somebody that is going to be big enough that a guard and a center might have to double team to displace him so that Bolton or Tranquil or Chanel can stay cleaner than we have seen at times the last couple of years.
So, yeah, I mean, Siaki Ika had tremendous talent. And, I think, he was a guy that was getting at even round one buzz at one point in his collegiate career. And for whatever reason, it just hasn't worked out for him yet. I mean, being cut as quickly as he was from Cleveland is not a good sign most of the time.
Yeah, he was by the way, former third-round pick, if people don't know. He was drafted in the third round in 2023 out of Baylor.
Yep.
But go ahead,
and, I look at, Danny Shelton, this team has tried with some of these bigger body guys, just, maybe not the most agile laterally, So, I think, I don't know. It'll be fascinating to see if Siaki Ika is able to reclaim the form that had him getting around one buzz at one point. But Fabian Levette was brought up by Mike Pinnell over the offseason as a guy to pay attention to. And I think that's worth kind of notating there as well. And when you look at Levette, I mean, he's kind of, he's a stout run defender, but he's also got really intriguing length. He has 35.5-inch arms, 10.5-inch hands. This is a huge, long, physical run-stopping human that the Chiefs seem to be pretty excited about. They're able to hold him and stash him on the on the 50 or on the undrafted or on the practice squad last year. But man, he's got intriguing measurables, and I think we put a 4th-round grade on him. I think in the KCSN draft guide a couple off seasons ago. So I think he's the one. Yeah, I know the name's a lot easier to pronounce than Marlon Tuipulotu and Siaki Ika, but I think he's the one I'm paying the most attention to as someone that can crack the 53-man roster.
It is interesting how things happen with the draft, right? Because if the Chiefs, if we're talking about two players that would have been in a draft class this year and said, well, the Chiefs, they signed Fabian Levette, as an undrafted free agent. But in the third round, they get Siaki Ika from Baylor that transferred from LSU in the third round. This guy's 6'3", 340. There would be so much talk about Siaki Ika, which is why probably that's where my eyes and attention gravitates towards, is because there was at least that pedigree at some point in his career that he was viewed as maybe a first round, and he was still a day 2 pick in the NFL. But as you said, Cleveland moved on from him after year 1. The Eagles brought him in for a week and then moved on from him, and they're pretty good at identifying defensive line. So that's a little concerning. And then the Chiefs signed him to the reserve futures contract. Who knows what you're going to get with that? But Levette has been with the Chiefs for since they took him as an undrafted free agent after last year's draft. But it just, you never know when they get to the team what they're going to look like, because in that draft last year, we thought, certainly I did, Keandre Coburn was going to be a really good addition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the defensive tackle position has been a little bit elusive for the Chiefs with their moves, like you talked about, with Coburn not even cracking the roster. That's very rare. The Chiefs draft picks have been pretty consistent in making the roster over the last few years, and Coburn not doing that wasn't a great sign. One other quick comment on Ika, the tape was good coming out, especially the year before in 2022 or 2021. His tape was really good. There's qualities on film that were likable coming out, but I think sometimes height, weight, speed matters, and sometimes having 32.5-inch arms and running a 5.4 40 matters. Having a 4.99 short shuttle and a 7.83 cone matters. And maybe, some of those athletic limitations have just become more obvious and apparent to teams and in his, outlook as an NFL player. So, I think there's two sides of it, because, I think the tape was quite good coming out. It's just, there's also, there are some physical requirements of the league that some players just aren't capable of hitting.
Yeah. Visiting with Kent Swanson, KC Sports Network, the KC Laboratory Podcast. What would you like the Chiefs secondary to look like? Because we'll be paying attention to rotation, and you mentioned the pictures and who's lining up where. How would you like to see them lining up in the rotation if you could place the guys in certain spots in the secondary?
Well, I think your base downs, I'd have Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie on the field right now. I think Jalen Watson was having an outstanding season last year with the injuries that, kind of derailed it a little bit, but contract year Jalen Watson, sign me up. I think he's going to have an outstanding year next to Trent McDuffie. And then obviously, when you're playing three corners, I'd kick Trent McDuffie inside and let him thrive there. And right now, I think it'd be Christian Fulton for me. I am hopeful, optimistic, and bullish on Noel Williams. And obviously, top 100 pick. I think he's going to be a tremendous football player. I think he can crack the rotation at some point in 2025. But I mean, McDuffie inside, Fulton and Watson outside to start, and yeah, I think Noel Williams has a chance to very quickly be cornerback for this team.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about him, but I also want, like, I'm with you on that one. I think it's Fulton and Watson on the outside, McDuffie on the inside. When you're in, let's be honest, in today's NFL, that seems more base than base. But just for terminology concern, yeah, it's Watson and McDuffie when they're out there with just two cornerbacks. When there's three, I want McDuffie to play in the slot, and then Fulton and Watson to play out there. And who knows where Noel Williams is going to be? Joshua Williams certainly still in the mix. Najee Johnson, we'll see about that. How do you view Shamari Connor? Because if they're looking at, I don't know, maybe like a 3rd and long, could you have a situation where it's your 4 down linemen in some way, shape, or form, Jones, Karlaftis, let's go Amenahue, and Gelati / Omar Norman Lott. You got your 3 cornerbacks in Fulton, Watson, and McDuffie. You've got your safeties in Cook and Hicks. Is Connor on the field with Drew Tranquil? Or maybe even Nick Bolton, that offers you Nick Bolton to put everybody in the spot. They don't typically take him off the field. We know that. So maybe Nick Bolton puts everybody in the spot, but Connor is a guy that can cover and come up and defend the run if there's a draw or could be a spy on the quarterback. Is that his role this year, to be sort of a jack of all trades and let Spags just move him around in certain spots, as opposed to what felt like last year is, hey, Shamari, you're going to be the slot corner?
I think so. I think you're probably going to see Shamari Connor playing more from depth this year. And when you look at the safety room, there's a necessity for it, right? Cook and Hicks, I think, very obviously, safeties that can play from, that 2-eye shell. But Shamari didn't see that much, from depth last season. I think he's a guy that probably plays more traditional safety in 2025, but also is weaponized as a versatile chess piece that can kick down into the slot, move around a little bit. So I do think that you're kind of going to see him moved around a little bit more. And I do think, your primary slot player will be Trent McDuffie, but I think there will be situations in certain packages that you'll see Shamari Connor in there still. So I'm fascinated to see how this team weaponizes Shamari Connor and uses him, because, I think just the way the roster is constructed, I think he's got a little bit more flexibility, and the Chiefs won't be as beholden to him playing as much in the slot. Where, let's be honest, he had his issues there. He had his issues in 2024.
Yeah,
playing from the slot, getting picked on out routes consistently. So I think he's going to get moved around a little bit more, be a little bit more of a versatile chess piece for Steve Spagnuolo.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, and so maybe at some point we talked about this throughout the season of however long quarterbacks have time to throw, or how quickly they get rid of the ball in general against the Chiefs, because the Chiefs dropped 18 sacks last year from where they were in 2023. It's a sack a game that they were averaging, and whether pressure rates and all of that stuff, and they were a little bit lower too. I just wonder, Kent, that can some of the sack numbers be attributed to the Chiefs secondary had Connor or sometimes Roland Wallace in the slot, and you had Williams or Najee Johnson outside opposite McDuffie, that, they didn't get a sack there. Well, yeah, because the guy was open, and so the quarterback didn't need to hold on to the football, so they didn't get a sack. Well, they didn't even get a pressure. Yeah, because the quarterback saw the mismatch and threw the ball and got rid of it. These advanced analytics, we can look at and study those a little bit more. Do you think the improved secondary from the guys I just mentioned, from a Najee Johnson / Williams opposite McDuffie when Watson wasn't in there, Connor and Christian Roland Wallace in the slot, as opposed to what could be Watson and Fulton and McDuffie as your 3 cornerbacks, are the sacks going to be the beneficiaries of that we will see, even if we say they're going to have improved pass rush with adding Gelati, getting after the quarterback, and maybe a full season of Charles Amenahue, and we'll see what Omar Norman Lott can do in taking place of Turk Wharton. is how rough the secondary was, connected to the 18 fewer sacks last year?
100%. I think this team will more closely resemble the 2023 defense than last year. I actually think there's a step that this defense takes. There's certainly some concern, I think, with pass rush juice along the defensive line. There's a little bit more concern not having the Justin Reed, but hey, we don't know what Jaden Hicks' year 2 is going to look like. But I think having more horses in the back end and more depth and flexibility in the back end, being able to be physical outside more consistently, and having Trent McDuffie do his thing from the slot. Having depth there at the cornerback spot too. So if you do suffer an injury, you have some players that can fill in and still allow you to do some of the things that you want to do. I think, getting the quarterback to hold the ball a beat, I think will be, it'll be back, and Steve Spagnuolo can get into his bag a little bit. I really think the reallocation of resources on the defensive side of the ball is going to lead to a better version of this team in 2025 than what we saw in 24, and probably more closely resembling the team that won the Super Bowl in 23.
If they have the left tackle spot close to figured out, and let's just say playoffs Donovan Smith, or heck, even Orlando Brown, when you sort of have an understanding or a level of play that you're going to get that you can coach around, as opposed to the unknown with Kingsley and Wanya, and you could coach around Joe Tooney, but then the unknown at guard with Caliendo there. If they have that to some degree figured out, then this roster and this team is better than they were last year, top to bottom. They're a better team because injuries and what the wide receiver can look like. They have dynamic playmaker, maybe as a running back, and I think the defense is going to take a step forward this year. If they can figure out the left side of that offensive line, then there's no reason we can't look at this Chiefs team and say, not only do they have QB1, but they've got the best roster, 1 through 53, or at least damn near in contention of being the very best team in the NFL.
I think there's an argument to be made for that for sure, right? And, just getting, Kingsley, is going to be a big question mark too.
Just that left side overall.
Too. I think there's some question marks there. Yeah. Just on the left side of the offensive line that have to get worked out because losing Joe Tooney is significant. Mm-hmm. But I do feel that just simply taking a step back at guard but taking a step forward at tackle is probably still an improved offensive line for sure. So getting some trust from Patrick Mahomes, pushing the ball down the field a little bit more to Xavier Worthy. And getting to see some of the things that this team had in store for the pairing of Rice, Brown, and Worthy that we didn't get to really see the full reveal of last season. Yeah, I think there's a lot of meat on the bone there for 2025 that we didn't get to see in 2024, and maybe they had kind of cooking a little bit, right? So, I do think there's an argument to be made that this team is more talented, better in 2025. Who knows? Like Jalen Royals too.
Right.
Don't sleep on him. Super talented kid, and he fits the mold of what they like, and I think they can get him involved too.
Well, and unfortunately ruining this conversation, starting and ending with Royals, I did have one more question for you, and that would be: we're 6 weeks away from the deadline for the franchise tag to get something figured out long term with Trey Smith. So we'll ask you as a group of 3: Smith, McDuffie, and Karlaftis. More than one? 0? All 3? 2? If you're guessing right now, Smith, McDuffie, Karlaftis, how many, if any, have an extension on this team before the season starts?
Before the season?
Yeah, before the season, because I only think Trey Smith's the only one before July 15th. That I don't think they're working on anybody else. But if Trey Smith gets done, then maybe the other 2. But before the season?
Before the season, I think it's 1. I think it's Trey Smith.
Okay.
I think both McDuffie and Karlaftis play this thing out. I think it'll be hard. I think it'll be really hard to get something done with Trent, personally, just because, of the cornerback market, some of that there. Karlaftis, if he wants to get something done early, I think he has a better chance of getting something done if the Chiefs are actively interested in extending George Karlaftis. If they feel like they can't, if they feel like they can afford him, sure. I think they would prioritize Trent. I think Trent will be tougher to get done. than Karlaftis. So I think one gets done. I think they try to get, and I think they eventually get something done with Trent, and I think Karlaftis walks eventually.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Karlaftis wants to be long-term, he may want to get something done earlier, because if they go into the season and like what they got from Gelati, then that may give them the room to move on from Karlaftis after the 5th year, certainly. Or trade him before the 5th year. Who knows what could happen with that. Kent Swanson, KC Sports Network, the KC Laboratory Podcast. Kent, you're the man. Appreciate it, sir. Enjoy the OTAs and the updates on CAGs, and we'll catch up soon, man.
Yeah. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. There's Kent Swanson following the Chiefs and following Jack Caglione's at bats. Like we all are. You know what I mean? We all do. And sometimes I do get into mischief. We all do. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling, and we'll talk some Chiefs football. I mentioned that I think there's a real chance the left side of the line is a huge question mark. But if they have some sort, and it's in capital I, capital F, some sort of figuring out how to protect Mahomes or close to an answer on that left side, then what they've done defensively and what the wide receiver group can look like, and adding Brashard Smith and Elijah Mitchell, I think this is a better roster than a year ago and competing for best roster in the NFL. We'll talk a little bit about that because NFL.com put out their most complete teams right now in the NFL. Where do the Chiefs come in? We'll tell you that next. Thank you to Kent Swanson, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, heading up until 2 o'clock. 1 o'clock, we'll hear from the Kansas City Chiefs. OTAs going on right now. Last day of OTAs for this week. They've got some more OTAs next week, and then a mandatory mini camp, and then a break until the training camp begins there in St. Joe. 913-912-4810. The College Football Hall of Fame has decided to change its voting standards. College Football Hall of Fame will lower the win percentage starting in 2027 for coaches to be included in the Hall of Fame.
If they're from the SEC. Oh, is that not? Okay, I didn't know if that was the new bylaw.
Hall of Fame just means more. You know what I mean?
That's true.
It just means more. No, if the threshold right now is you have to have a 60% winning percentage.
You know what helps, actually? Dylan.
What helps? What helps?
Former KU legendary head coach. Legendary. Think of a legendary KU football head coach. Because this is what helps.
Mangino, obviously.
I was right. Yeah, that's the only.
No. I'm talking legendary. Really turned the program around.
Roy Williams, Bill Self.
Yeah. Whoever was coaching when John Riggins or Gail Sayers was there.
Les Miles.
Oh, yeah. Right.
But so you have to have a 60% winning percentage to be eligible for the College Football Hall of Fame. They have now changed that. They have amended that to a 59.5% winning percentage to be eligible for the Hall of Fame. Because at 59.5% winning percentage was Mike Leach. And so they have amended it specifically to put Mike Leach into the College Football Hall of Fame. But if we are going to go down this road to make sure we amend it to specifically include one particular person, and I'm fine with Mike Leach being in the College Football Hall of Fame. I'm totally fine with Mike Leach being in the College Football Hall of Fame. I'm fine with that.
Agreed.
But if we're going to amend it for one person, then they need to lower it to 50%. Not that everybody with 50% can get in. You still would have to be a Hall of Fame worthy coach. And you would say, well, if a coach has a 500 record, then what's the point? Well, the point would be Howard Schnellenberger, who is a College Football Hall of Fame coach, but because he saved Miami, won a national title. Louisville was getting rid of football when he took over. They ended up winning multiple bowl games, and in fact, 5 years after he got there, they went 10-1. But he had to start off with seasons where he won 7 games in 3 years combined because he was saving the program. He started the Florida Atlantic program, in which, they had his third year, they went 11-3, then 9-3. Then they went back-to-back and won bowl games in 07 and 08. So this guy at 3 different programs turned him around, either saved them from being folded or started them. Todd would probably not be okay with Howard being in the College Football Hall of Fame because of his 1 year at Oklahoma was a disaster. But he's a College Football Hall of Fame coach. But he's a 50%, 500 winning percentage. So they're going to have to really lower their threshold and their standards to get Schnellenberger in the Hall of Fame. But he absolutely is a Hall of Fame college football coach because of what he did. So they are saying if you save a program and turn it into a national contender, save a program and turn it into a stable program that's now in the ACC, from being in the Metro to being in the ACC, or independent. He took over when they were independent. They weren't even in a conference at the time. And starting a program in Florida Atlantic, that if you do those things and you're successful and you're a big part of the college football history, you got to win 60% of your games to even be eligible for that. Well, we've just changed that. We've said, now you don't have to win 60% because we want to make sure we get Mike Leach in the Hall of Fame. Is that only because Mike Leach passed away? I'm fine with Mike Leach being a Hall of Famer. but I guess he's eligible in 2027 to go into the Hall of Fame, which is why in 2027 they are going to change their threshold to 59.5% so that he can get in. And if that's the case, then why have a minimum standard anyway? Just let the people vote. If they think this guy's a Hall of Fame coach, he's a Hall of Fame coach no matter what the winning percentage is. Those guys will vote him in.
Yeah, I think it's shocking to even have that to begin with.
Yeah,
it makes no sense. It'd be like if baseball's, you had to hit 300. You have to. 299. Sorry, was it Pujols that got down to, who was it? Was it Pujols or Miggy?
Like the last couple of days that he dropped to like a 299.
It was 299.
I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was Pujols.
I don't think it was. Let me look it up. Just because I remember that specifically.
I remember that.
Yeah, Pujols.
Too.
He's now at a 296 career. So yeah, sorry, Pujols. You can't get in because of these arbitrary.
No matter how many home runs you hit, you have to at least have been to 5 playoffs. And you have to have won at least a playoff series.
Yeah.
So that's like this. Like you have a 600 winning percentage as a coach. Doesn't matter if you're turning a team around. So you're not a Hall of Famer if you played on a bad baseball team.
Yes.
Okay? You can't be a Hall of Famer.
Malone, sorry.
Mike Trout, you can't be a Hall of Famer because you've never won a playoff game before.
Stockton, no, man.
No, sorry. You can't.
Can't do it.
You can't
didn't
do the whole.
Didn't win a
it's
title.
It's dumb that they have that, but they have it, and they acknowledge that it's dumb, but they lower it 0.5% for the standard to get in.
Yeah, I just think this is silly. I thought they should just take it away. And if you've proven yourself to be a Hall of Fame, I mean, why have the number? Why it just seems so arbitrary? Then what's the point of voting?
Yeah, he's, by the way, Schnellenberger is 6-0 in bowl games.
If you have it, it should just be at 500 to... Like be there.
But why? But why?
No, I know. I agree with that. But just so like, I mean, why would a sub 500 coach be in the Hall of Fame? Like,
well, I mean, Howard's close. He's 50.5.
Right, but he's close, but he's still above it.
That would be why. But it's also arbitrary. Like 600. Why not a 610 winning percentage? Why not a 611?
I agree
why
there.
not a 615? Why not a 590? Why not a 580?
I also just
why
think
not a 90%?
If you
why
set
not
it
an
at
80?
500, there's never going to be a coach that's below that. Like, rarely will you have a Hall of Fame coach that's below 500.
Schnellenberger is the one that stands out so much that has been sort of the main conversation of the 60%
and even
threshold.
still, he's above 500.
Yeah. So the 600 winning percentage threshold, the conversation has really been about Schnellenberger. Like every year, it's like, well, this coach is going in and that coach is going in. Well, you know, Schnellenberger's never going to go in because you have to have a 600 winning percentage, and he won 51% of his games. So you had a 510 winning percentage. It's not going to happen.
Then why vote? If you're just going to have arbitrary law, why not just say you got to coach for 25 years, and if you're over 600 or now 595, you're in?
Yeah. Right, but it's like it's now even more arbitrary to say it's 595.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
It's very silly.
I don't even think the rule. I agree with you that the rule's dumb, but I just think that if you want to have it there, no coach is ever, and Howard's the closest, and he's still not sub 500. I just don't think a Hall of Fame football coach is ever going to be below 500 record-wise.
I thought baseball had the dumbest.
Well,
Hall of Fame
they do
rules. No, I think college football does now. I just don't even get it because this even specific rule. It's so arbitrary that it insists upon itself.
Because it's trying to make a point, it's insisting. That's what I'm saying. It's a great point. It totally insists upon itself. But I mean, they're saying there's no space for a guy that 2 years before he got there, they were going to fold the Miami Hurricanes football program. And he gets there, and 5 years later, they win a national championship. He had this crazy idea. This is crazy. This guy, he was so far ahead of his time. He had this idea and said, hey, at Miami, what if we didn't let South Florida kids get out of Miami? What if we recruited the hell out of all of these stud players in Southern Florida? What if we got them to stay in Southern Florida and all come to Miami together? This is nuts. This is stupid. I know. We're turning down kids from South Carolina, and we're not going to go get those kids from Ohio and Texas. What if we just focused on our backyard with these awesome football players and just recruited here and kept the players home and maybe started winning? Let's try that first. Let's try keeping these stud players home. And they did, and he wins a national title.
I think we should...
Then he goes pro. Didn't work out. Then Louisville's going to disband their program. And then he gets there, wins 2 games, wins 3 games, wins 3 games, and then 8, 10. Like, he starts winning games. Now it's like, well, he only went to 6 bowl games? Yeah, right. Nobody said he's the greatest coach of all time. We're talking about whether he is worthy enough to be a Hall of Famer. And I doubt you would find a college football voter that would say he's not a Hall of Fame coach. The only reason is because he doesn't match the criteria to get there with a minimum win percentage. I don't know anybody that would look at it and go, well, he's not in the Hall of Fame. He's not. Nobody's saying he's the greatest coach of all time. But that's a Hall of Fame coach. He's won a national title. He saved 2 programs and started another at 1AA and then took them into Division I in the Sun Belt in Florida Atlantic.
So I'll say this. Chris Kleiman, Hall of Famer, 632%.
See, there you
He's
go.
in. Eli Drinkwitz, 667. Congrats, Eli.
Oh,
You are a Hall of Famer.
repeating, of course.
It actually is repeating, of course, because he is 50 and 25.
Yep.
Lance Leipold, I'm sorry because of the first couple year
Yeah,
492.
Yeah, but he took over Kansas. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. He better start winning a bunch of games, even if he wins a national title.
Doesn't matter.
And he wins a bunch of bowl games. He's going to have to start really winning a lot of games if he wants to be a Hall of Famer to get over that 595 win percentage threshold, even though he had to rebuild Kansas that was really, really bad because of another guy that, Hall of Fame type guy in Les Miles.
I told you, Les Miles. He's now
What's his winning
available.
percentage?
597.
Oh, my God.
And I told you that the biggest benefactory of that was Les Miles.
Well, they're doing it for Mike Leach. So the biggest is
they're
Mike
doing it
Leach.
for Les Miles.
The biggest is Mike Leach.
It's not about the 34 wins vacated from LSU because of NCAA violations. No.
If the Pirates
because
getting
of
in,
KU.
if the Pirates getting in, then the pipe deserves to get in. Because Howard Schnellenberger had a pipe on the sideline, right? He smoked the pipe. The Pirates in, the pipe's in.
Barry Odom close. Barry Odom 57%.
Well, that's because he had to turn around that Missouri program.
Yeah. Had to turn that thing around. And Arkansas.
It's just rough. They only had, he was trying to turn around a program that never won a Big 12 or an SEC championship. So that's difficult, right? I mean, come on. Never even went to a BCS Bowl. At least Lance Leipold was taking over a program that had a BCS Bowl win. So do we really think that's that difficult? So Barry Odom, tough job to do what he did. And it didn't. Then he went to an easier place like UNLV, and he was able to get it done.
Jackie Sherrill, 595. So he would be the exact one. 26 years at Pitt, A&M, and Mississippi State.
There you go. So,
There's your SEC.
Yeah, they're doing it for
and the ACC.
Also Mike Leach, though. I mean, SEC,
Mississippi State,
Kentucky, and Mississippi State, and then of course Tech and Washington State. So I was going to say Big Ten, but I forgot Washington State wasn't there. Sorry, Wazoo fans. Sorry about that. That wasn't meant to be.
West Virginia's Rich Rodriguez, 596.
Which Rodriguez?
Wandy.
Rich Rest Virginia, and which Rodriguez takes a long, hard look at Randy. All right, so
bite.
Like I said, NFL.com has their list of the best rosters in the NFL right now, and we'll tell you where the Chiefs are ranked next. not having lived through the 70s since being born in 80, Howard Schnellenberger at Miami took over for Lou Saban. So how about that? Lou Saban, the only coach to win multiple AFL championships. That is, of course, until Hank Stram did it. In your face. Hank Stram got 3 of them. It's weird. See, the Bills did win something. They did win championships. Why is everybody bringing up Super Bowls all the time to the Bills? Come on, they've won AFL championships too. Contrary to popular belief, not the father of Nick Saban. Even though Lou Saban is related in some way, and Nick Saban's middle name is Lou. Isn't that interesting? They are cousins to some degree. But yeah, so Howard took over for Lou Saban at Miami when he was there. So NFL.com has the list of best rosters in the NFL. And Eric Edholm writing about the Kansas City Chiefs that come in at number Sterling. Oh, I might have seen through the back of the paper.
Saw it, yeah.
Yeah. What did you see? What number?
My peepers saw 4.
Yep. That's absolutely. You are a peeping Tom. You saw it. It is. They're ranked number 4. The Kansas City Chiefs are. So now you got to tell me who's ranked 1, 2, and 3.
Eagles are 1. I will go. Ooh. Detroit's going to be the top 3, I think. And then that leaves Bills, Ravens. Who do they think between Bills and Ravens? I think they actually might go Ravens. So I'll say Eagles, Lions, Ravens, Chiefs.
Close. You got the teams right, but 2 and 3 flipped.
Okay, so Eagles, Ravens,
Lions, Chiefs.
Lions, Chiefs.
So what he writes about the Chiefs here, he said, they continue to tinker with the wide receivers and offensive line. There will be new faces on defense, too, but the core of the 25 Chiefs resembles the team that has forged its way into playing in 5 of the past 6 Super Bowls. They might be coming off a lopsided loss in the Super Bowl, but I don't expect them to undergo a precipitous decline. The defense had carried a bigger chunk of the load in recent years, but the blowout proved the unit required reinforcements. 4 draft picks, including 3 on day 2, to go along with Chris Jones and McDuffie, elite defenders, solid playmakers throughout the defense as well. Bringing in Christian Fulton and Noel Williams should help the secondary. Patrick Mahomes' production has slipped a bit from his absolute peak a few years back, but he remains one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the game entering his age 30 season, which is, I hate even saying that. Back along his side is Travis Kelce, a better running back situation than the team had last season and plenty of talent at receiver. The offensive line has undergone big changes, but it could be better in 25. Some shakiness in the trenches keeps us from giving them an A across the board on the report card, but Mahomes and a handful of other elite players combined with solid middle-of-the-roster talent makes this crew a top 10 lock in my book. Drop them after the Super Bowl blowout at your own risk. There's enough left in the tank for another run. Number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't really disagree with any of the stuff that he wrote there.
A lot of it was glowing, actually.
Yeah. And I am not going to be studying the Eagles and Ravens and Lions and matching up positionally in players.
Sure.
It is just interesting that in this run for the Chiefs, going back to 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025, in these winning the Super Bowl the next year, or losing the AFC Championship game next year, and then Super Bowl. So they lose in the AFC Championship game to the Bengals and trade Tyreek Hill. That year, they came in 4th, behind number 1 Tampa Bay, that, by the way, had not just won the Super Bowl. That was the Rams winning the Super Bowl over the Bengals.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, the Chargers, number 2, and the Bills, number 3.
Yeah.
They go and win the Super Bowl against the Eagles. So they start off 2023. They are ranked 2nd, behind the Eagles in 2023. They go and win the Super Bowl against the 49ers.
Okay.
They are ranked 3rd last year at this time in 2024, behind the 49ers and the Ravens, the 2 teams they had beat the last 2 weeks to win said Super Bowl. And they are ranked 4th behind the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Lions. They did lose to the Eagles, but still interesting that each team they have played along the way, the next year is like, yeah, but this team's better than the Chiefs. This roster overall, top to bottom, is better than the Chiefs. Quarterback included. As they said, production has slipped, but he's still one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the league. But it is fascinating that it's like, they trade Tyreek Hill, so the Chargers are better now. They win the Super Bowl against the Eagles. Well, yeah, but we think the Eagles are better. They win the Super Bowl against the 49ers. Yeah, but we think the 49ers are better. They lose the Super Bowl to the Eagles. Well, we think the Eagles are better. Well, hold on.
Now, I think the Eagles have a probably better roster. I think because of the lack of concerns on the offensive line.
I'm just being facetious on the fact that they win the Super Bowl and the other team is ranked ahead. They win the Super Bowl, the other team is ranked ahead.
The only team I really have an issue with, it's certainly even an issue, but I have a slight bone with the Ravens because this feels like the same thing every single year. The media writers nationally love the Ravens, always do, and they're always semi-underperforming. They're always good, and some of the analytics love the Ravens, but that's not translated to anything. So at some point, maybe your numbers are off. At some point, if you keep having the exact same numbers and the exact same results keep happening, maybe it's your process or your analytics, the underlying that's the outlier here. I think the Chiefs are getting a little bit, I don't want to say disrespected because that's still your fourth. You're not getting disrespected here.
They've been top four.
But I think people forget the amount of injuries to major players the Chiefs had last year. I think the Rashee Rice and Hollywood injuries, their fourth left tackle ended up being a guard. I just think people are forgetting the massive amount of basically premium position injuries that the Chiefs sustained last year, and it's almost being just, well, their offense is bad now, or their offense is just average. And I think they're about to show a lot of people, especially nationally, that their offense is back and as good as it once was. Again, I do have some concerns with the offensive line, which is why I'm okay with them being fourth, and that was obviously talked about in that little article there, which I thought was nice, that the reasoning I was in lockstep with. I think Detroit's kind of the same thing in the NFC, actually, where I've seen the Lions kind of get dropped in a lot of these rankings, and I go, yeah, they were also just banged up so bad defensively that they're getting so many pieces back, culminating with Aiden Hutchinson. I think the Lions and Chiefs are really... I'm glad this at least article had them where they're ranked, but I think those are two of the top 4 ones. And if it were me personally, I would have gone Eagles, Lions, Chiefs, Bills or Raven 4-5 as kind of as a toss up.
Yeah, and I think the Ravens are an interesting one because you've got teams. Last couple of years they are the number 1 seed and they lose to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. They go on the road to Buffalo in the divisional round last year, and they lose to the Bills. And what they had in common with those is that they were -3 in both games. They lose to the Chiefs by a score, and they lose by 2 to the Bills when they had the 2-point conversion. But he dropped the ball. The Bills also had a minute and a half left that they could have gone down there and kicked a field goal. That clearly would have been wide right. But who knows? They could have tied it up. They should have tied it up with Mark Andrews in that 2-point conversion. Yeah. It didn't happen. But they were also -3 in turnovers in that game against the Bills. They also had the multiple turnovers in the end zone against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. So they can't get over the play here or there that costs them a game at the biggest moment in the playoffs. They can't get past that hurdle of one mistake or another mistake or just game-changing plays that reverse the fortune, and you look back and go, man, if Zay Flowers doesn't fumble in the end zone, man, if Lamar doesn't fumble that football going in for another score or on the positive side of the field, and then the Bills pick it up and run the other way. If this doesn't happen, if Mark Andrews doesn't catch the ball and then fumble the ball, like they just kept giving the ball back to the Bills multiple times and then still had the 2-point conversion play with the ball in his hands, but didn't get it done.
What I really liked from the thought process was it's not just the top end players the Chiefs have and possess. It's the middle guys.
Yeah, right.
It is the Nick Boltons. It is the Jaden Hicks. It is the Rashees, Xavier, Hollywoods. It's the Creeds and the Treys. It's not just Patrick and Travis and Chris Jones. It's a plethora of guys in the middle as well.
Yeah, he mentioned all of those playmakers, but then, as you said, combined with solid middle of the roster talent.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what Brett Veach has been able to do. We'll talk stadium next. All right, hanging out here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. Heading up until 2 o'clock. In an hour from now, we will hear from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. We'll hear from Pacheco and Xavier Worthy and George Karlaftis. What do you say about that, Sterling?
Sounds great.
Okay, fantastic. Darn it, you didn't take a big enough bite. I thought you'd really stuff it in
You tried
there.
to get me.
I tried.
No, I know. See, when you can ask a question, typically, I know I have time to eat maybe an entire meal.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Well,
no.
I eat quick, too, so it's a
yeah.
good combination.
You don't actually taste it. You just simply inhale it.
No, I do both. I
don't
like
know
it
that you
so
do.
much that I eat quick.
I don't know that you do. I don't know that you actually
If
I'd
you
ask
like
you
it,
how
you
it tastes,
do-
but I don't think you would give me a real assessment because I don't think you know.
Like dill and broccoli grits
Okay. Sure.
with chicken.
That's what you're eating right now?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound good.
Broccoli grits with chicken, dill, and green beans.
I'm not a grits fan, so.
Well, your wife's from Louisville.
I didn't say she's not one. I said I'm not.
You got to eat grits when you're from
don't
kind of
think-
the South.
I don't think it works like that. With
The
well, she
transitive
likes this,
property.
so now I must like that. Not how it works.
Well, you're married, right?
That's a good point. Touche, sir. All right, so let's talk about some of the biggest news that came out yesterday. And that is the Asperia campus and somebody associated with the Royals purchasing the loan, the debt, from the lender that had the loan to Occidental, the property owner. And that came out, and it was like, oh, wow, the Royals have purchased the Asperia campus? Hold on. They bought the campus? Well, that changes things. Well, no, they didn't buy the campus. We'll explain, what it all means and what I think it all could mean. But the Royals released their statement yesterday afternoon. So the Kansas City Royals continue to explore all options throughout our community to develop a new stadium for the team. We have not yet decided on a site, and any assertion to the contrary is inaccurate. As part of our ongoing efforts, we have negotiated with or made investments in multiple potential sites, both in Missouri and in Kansas. One of these investments was the acquisition by an affiliate of the Royals, parentheses, of the mortgage on the Asperia campus through an arm's-length bidding process. That's crucial, the arm's-length bidding process. It's not like, closer. It wasn't closer.
Not a hug.
Yeah, it was a hug. Like, well, see, you keep chewing into the microphone, so he turns your mic off because you're going.
No, I'm not. I'm not, though. I'm
So
not.
it's-
Why do I sound like Foghorn Leghorn or something right there?
No, it was a Tasmanian. Tasmanian. So anyway, as evidenced by stadium development plans across the country, these are complex, time-consuming processes that involve a variety of considerations. We are evaluating multiple options at the same time. In fact, in the weeks since we purchased the mortgage, we have continued to work through a strategic, diligent, and focused process in both states to ensure we can reach the best decision. We remain committed to finding a generational home for the Kansas City Royals that our fans, our team, our partners and associates, and our regional community can enjoy for decades to come. So that is the latest in the saga of the stadium and where the Royals will be playing their games in 2031. We know that it won't be at Kauffman Stadium. We know that it won't be at the Crossroads. Where will it be outside of that? I'm not sure. I don't think / hope that it is at the Asperia campus, the old Sprint campus.
You don't think or you don't hope it's there?
No, I don't think it's going to be there, and I hope it's not going to be there.
Okay. I wanted to make
Neither.
sure. I wanted to make sure we're in the
Thank
same
you for
page.
letting me clarify, because if somebody thought, I don't think, but I hope.
That's
no,
kind of how I took it.
yeah,
And
sorry.
I was.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's going to be there, and my goodness, I hope it is not going to go there.
Okay.
But what has happened is that someone affiliated with the Royals has purchased the loan for $164 million. Now, the date that's going to be really interesting on this is August 9th. Because on August 9th, the entire principal of the loan, of the balance, comes due, which is $232 million.
It's like a balloon.
Yes. Occidental would own that.
Right.
Occidental owes that, while the affiliate of the Royals owns the debt. They would owe them that $232 million. What is going to be, what I think, sort of crucial along the way is what happens next week in Jefferson City in the special session. What happens with potential star bonds June 30th when those expire. But I think the Royals would probably have a pretty decent idea by then, hopefully a pretty good idea by then, of what Missouri's going to do with what they're going to be offering. And if that gets approved, then what Jackson County or going across the river, North Kansas City, what the different government entities can offer them, along with whatever Missouri is going to be presenting. But if this does not get passed in the Senate with Missouri, then I do wonder what the future is going to be for the Royals. I'm not sure it's going to be this, because I'm hoping that this is more a bargaining chip for the Royals with Missouri that isn't a bargaining chip where, well, let's do this, and we're willing to lose $170 million for a bargaining chip. That's not the case. People that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars and billions of dollars do not typically purchase something for $164 million that they think is going to, lose them $100 million.
Yes.
Unless they feel like it's going to be a loss leader, that then you can lose a little money on the front end so that you get your stadium on the back end.
Sure.
The timing of it is interesting because this thing took place on May 9th. Okay, This was purchased on May 9th. Yet it came out in was it Bloomberg that it came out on Tuesday that this purchase had taken place. And then locally, it's picked up with the Kansas City Business Journal, and it's written about, and then the Royals put out the press release. The question is, and what I would have, is that if this was just simply a transaction that was going to be picked up nationally by, these economic publications, these economists that are out there that cover, investors and investments and stock market throughout the country, how long would it take for them to get wind of this? If it's that big of a deal that they're writing about it, would they have known about it on May 10th or May 11th or May 12th? Would it have come across, oh, look, there's this $164 million loan that's worth $232 million with Occidental that's been purchased by this LLC that was created in April of this year. The 119 Real Estate Holdings formed April 24th of this year. They formed the LLC a month ago and immediately purchased a $164 million loan debt for Occidental. So is that something that Bloomberg was just like, well, yeah, this is a big deal, let's write about it? Or were they tipped off on Monday or Tuesday or at the end of the week of, Governor Kehoe's calling a special session? Hey, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but there's an affiliation with the Royals that just purchased this thing from, and I don't remember what company that they purchased it from, but they just purchased it. So they are now the holder of this loan for Occidental, the Asperia campus, that is a site that is being considered to build the stadium. So if this were to be purchased on Tuesday, it'd be like, all right, so what's the timing of it? Well, it wasn't purchased on Tuesday, so maybe there isn't some crazy timing to it. But why was it released nationally when it was released nationally, as opposed to if it was that big of a deal nationally, they would have known about it when it took place? So is this a timing negotiating ploy of, hey, Governor Kehoe, hopefully you're able to get your ducks in a row? Because starting next week when you guys are in that special session, oh, hey, the Royals have an opportunity to maybe own the property, which we can get into, to potentially own the property come later this year of a site in Kansas and have the potential star bonds to go along with that.
So yes, I think it was clearly planned. I mean, everything in this is going to be, it's planning. That's the whole point of this. They weren't really all on the same page the first time around, so everyone's going to try and be a little more
strategic.
Yeah. And
behind the scenes, everybody working diligently.
So dropping that when they did was strategic. I do find it interesting that property owner Occidental. It's accidental because they didn't know about this. They had no idea about the transaction without their knowledge or support.
Yeah,
that seems like a potential issue arising right there. And I know the JCC. I got to look back, but I don't think the J is owned by this management company.
It's separate.
And they had talked about. I think if you moved to that spot, you would have to.
You'd have to buy out the J as well.
Buy out the J. Well, the J has done a ton of phenomenal renovations.
If you could build, I think you'd have enough space to build the stadium right on the corner of 119th and Knoll. If this was the site they chose, which I don't want them to choose the site, this is my least favorite. Of all of the make sure you're in Kansas City, this is my least favorite. If it's right on the corner of 119th and Knoll, there is enough green space where you can just have the footprint of a stadium there that you wouldn't be getting into where the J and their campus and everything would be.
But where the entrance is, for part of it, starts at, 117th?
Well, you would create different entrances if you had to. And there's parking garages at the current site of the
and you have Park Place right there in Town Center.
And,
so you
Boardwalk,
You do have that. I find myself struggling because I do think the J has such a large footprint. They've done such a great job renovating there. I can't imagine them wanting or be willing to sell, and I'm not trying to put words in their mouth. I love the J. So as a member of the J,
we're members of the J. We go there all the time.
I don't want them to sell because I like that, but.
Just had Juliet's birthday party at the J.
I find it very difficult to find myself believing the stadium could go there. And again, there's just so many moving parts of that specific one. They couldn't get downtown because of vacant U-Haul. You know what I'm saying? Like I know it's a little different because they had a vote with everyone
extending the tax and everything.
But still, when you're now trying to maneuver places that are very, very popular and have a large footprint in the local area, I just can't imagine people living in Leawood and Overland Park around that area being like, we want the stadium here.
Well, how about people living out in Blue Springs or Lee Summit or the Northland saying, okay, now I got to deal with the traffic there, going there, the parking, and getting that far south of 435, as opposed to, well, we're not gonna vote for this to move Kauffman Stadium downtown. Well, it's so easy in and out of Kauffman Stadium. Obviously, this would not be a vote.
Yeah,
but you're talking about a bunch of people around the area that would be like, no, that's not. You would go if they are good enough to
people
attract the fans, they'll go. But if it's more convenient and more of an entertaining product, not necessarily having to be on the field, but product overall, then maybe it's something that is just a communal aspect, a social aspect. Why are 20-something thousand fans showing up to Rockies games? You think they're going there wearing their Rockies gear, hoping they win that game so they can make the playoffs? No, it's a great surrounding. You've got bars and restaurants and nightlife, and it's a fun ballpark to go to. You're not 20,000 deep at Rockies games hoping they can turn things around and win 40 games this year. You're not spending your money doing that. But if the Rockies were in a suburb that was difficult to get to, they ain't getting 25,000 fans a night.
The one thing I will say, and it's not...
And I'm not saying the Royals, by going downtown, would automatically get 25,000 fans a night, because Denver and Kansas City different, but still.
But I do think it would have a slight Cubs feel to where, there might not be designated parking or as much as obviously there currently is at the K, but you could park at Park Place, you could park at Town Center.
They've already have those parking garages there if they keep them.
Well, 100%.
There's like 14,000 parking spots.
I actually don't know.
But let me just tell you, as I'll raise my hand, no thank you.
Yeah, parking garages are not.
Parking garages are the devil.
Yeah, they're brutal.
For if you're just going into like a hospital or something like that, okay, that's fine. But a sporting event, a huge concert, dude, you're on the 4th level, and you're trying to go down, and you're sitting there, and everybody that's on the 1st and 2nd and 3rd level that are getting to their cars, No, thank you.
Your brakes will be worn out by just sitting there.
You can be sitting and park. You'll just park the damn thing. So, yeah, they have plenty of parking spots there. So people that don't want to go downtown, it's like, oh, yeah, you can park. Just how long is it going to take you to get out from that garage, parking spot?
I mean, I'm just like trying to think of, I guess you could park at even the, not Park Place in Town Center, but the one across not Corinth Square. The one where the Chipotle's at, you know what I'm talking about? Because, I mean, if you're willing to walk, that's probably the same walk from your car anyways that it would be from if you park at the K. I'm just trying to think of, like, some of the businesses and restaurants you could park at if you ate there.
But that's the thing is, though, they want the ballpark district to go along with the ballpark. So a ballpark district, they would like, if we had restaurants and maybe like an amphitheater, I don't like a movie theater or other things, it'd be really maybe some businesses you can go and shop.
Already here.
You can go and shop. Well, how cool would it be if you put it right there at 119th and Knoll? I know, it'd be pretty badass if you had restaurants and shops and a movie theater right there at 119th and Knoll. If you can just oh wait, that's already there. So let's hear from Thomas Freestad. He was on New Day with SSJ this morning. Kansas City Business Journal wrote the story on this purchase that took place on May 9th and what it means for the future and the Royals. And he weighs in here on the possibilities moving forward for that campus site.
There's so many ways this could actually play out depending on where the Royals ultimately want to go and, based on that, what their long-term plans are for owning this debt. So you're right to say that the entire principal balance, almost $233 million, is set to come due early in August. It's depending on, again, the Royals' intentions for this site. They are free to renegotiate in some way with Occidental, or if an Occidental, fully could say, hey, we are able to pay off the entire principal balance of this and do so. It was conveyed to us that they told their investors they are working to obtain or pursue takeout financing, which is longer-term financing, a loan to replace shorter-term financing. But if for whatever reason that weren't to happen and they were to be found in default for one reason or another of this loan, the Royals could, have the option to pursue foreclosure proceedings. They could work out some settlement arrangement with Occidental to either, allow for longer repayment or to come to own the property. I don't know that any of those options are on the table, though that is a general understanding of how these proceedings can and have gone in the past. Settlement is actually how Zona Rosa, the shopping center up in the Northland, came to belong to its current ownership. But that's that's the roadmap ahead we're looking at here in the immediate future.
So when I try to think from the standpoint of the Royals and what the different possibilities are for them, and I don't mean like stadium sites, I mean specifically with this and what it would mean strategically for this. If this is just simply a negotiating ploy, okay, where you're spending $164 million for a negotiating ploy, but you're not losing that because it's valued at $176 million, that site at Hesperia, if you were to be the owner of that property. A couple of things here that I wonder could be the case. If they have decided that this is where they want to go, if Missouri does not vote something and give them up to $500 million, or I should say 50% of what would be a ballpark that has to have at least 30,000 fans, that's part of the Show Me Sports Investment Act that they're going to talk about next week. If that is not passed, well, then, okay, this is a site that we've been looking at and we want to move to, or maybe North Kansas City, but this site specifically. So how does this serve them in the meantime? Well, as he mentioned, the principal comes due August 9th. So that's $232 million that Occidental owes on this loan. And he said they're trying to get a takeout loan to extend that. Okay, so my question would be, if they're trying to extend the loan, are they going to be able to do it with now the 119 real estate holdings to extend this loan another couple of years? Because the last 3 years, I think, they have been extending the loan. They have paid down the principal zero in the last 3 years. 2021, they owed $232.5 million on the principal. They extended the loan to pay interest only, and then extended the loan to pay interest only. And last year extended the loan to pay interest only. And now in 2025, they owe $232.5 million on the loan. So they are only paying interest the last few years just to make sure that they don't have to pay the lump sum of $232 right when it comes due. So if that's the case, if it gets to August 9th and 119 Real Estate Holdings say, no, we want the whole thing, or we're going to foreclose.
Well, as Dylan said, it's just a balloon payment. It would all be due
right then,
at once.
Right then, because you owe the principal of it because this loan comes due. Is there a company that would offer Occidental $232 million in a loan for them to pay 119 Real Estate and then hold? And so they would be then the property owners, but then owe a different company that money. The problem is it's valued at 176. Is somebody going to give Occidental $232 million on the value of, hey, kind of like a mortgage of a house, we're going to give you $250,000 because this house, that's what we think is worth, and it's going to appreciate. So if you default, we'll foreclose, take over that. Now we're going to make more money, but we're making money on the interest for something that has value that we will at least get our minimum investment back. This thing is valued at $50 million less than what is owed on the loan, because when they bought it for $251 million, it was valued at $366. Well, it's office space post-COVID.
Yeah.
That was 2019. It's now valued at $176 because it's office space post-COVID.
Yeah.
So are they going to find another company to give them $232 million to make the balloon payment to satisfy 119 Real Estate that would just make, $70 million quickly off this deal? Or if they can't find that, is 119 Real Estate going to go, we don't want to refinance. We want the whole thing. Oh, you don't have the money for the whole thing? Cool, we'll foreclose. We own it now. And now an affiliate of the Royals owns the property at Asperia campus, the old Sprint campus, and now they have that where they wouldn't have to then buy or purchase or go into negotiations to purchase it. Now, they would have to get into negotiations with people that are leasing those office spaces.
Sure. Because
Fiserv is a Fortune 500 company and just announced a month ago that they are moving a regional headquarters here to Kansas City. Their office space is going to be at Asperia campus. It's 2,000 jobs that they have come to an agreement with Occidental to put their company there.
Feel bad for those people who maybe already had job interviews and passed those.
Trevipay, HNTB, you've got plenty of companies that have office space there and contracts that if, this affiliate of the Royals comes in and forecloses, well, then what are you going to do with the people that are there? Unless it comes in and forecloses and says, well, you guys can stay there and live out that part of your agreement to have your office space and your company's there, because we're going to build on the corner of 119th and Knoll. And by the time we get all of this figured out, we'll have figured out buying out your guys' contracts so we can tear down whatever is over here that we want to build something around the ballpark. Or they just simply keep getting the interest and they figure out something with Missouri, because come August 9th, they'll have a better idea of what Missouri is going to do, or North Kansas City is going to do, and they can go, sure, we'll extend the loan for you. You just keep paying us interest, and you still are going to owe $232 million on the principal. So every month we're going to get interest and interest and interest, and we'll eventually get that $232, or we'll own the property at some point. That's valued at more than what we already paid for it. So it's a good investment from that standpoint.
I don't think it's good for Kansas City.
I think it's terrible.
I think it's a terrible spot. You're losing a lot of relatively high-paying jobs.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, if you think about the economic impact of it, because
Fortune 500 companies moving for 2,000 jobs here in the area, one of their regional headquarters, to that spot.
Yeah, and so again, I feel bad, but it was a U-Haul, it was a storage unit.
Whatever it might have been at that time.
And again, there are obviously jobs that were getting displaced.
It was also KC tenants that wanted to,
I know, and I feel for the people who would have had their job or their business
mislead people
down there. Yes, but then you look at this, and you have 2,000 high-paying jobs coming in. And if you move the Royal Stadium there, those are now jobs. Good luck getting other businesses to come. Where else do you put it? This is a good.
How long would the business be able to operate with those jobs before the stadium was?
That's what I'm saying. Like if they decide that the footprint,
if you work there for 2 years and then they build you and they say, here's part of the deal. We'll put you in this office building here. We are building for our investment and our corporate real estate investment as a business.
Could be.
and we'll give you this level here for free.
Because, again, the footprint to put a stadium, I think, is plenty in 119th and all that corner right there that has nothing on it anyway. It's just green grass, a couple of ponds and stuff like that.
Right, sure.
So there would be space to do it there, and they could keep those office buildings for their whatever corporate or 119 real estate holdings or whoever else is affiliated with this. But it is so far down the list of where I would want the Royals to be. It is in the list of where I want them to be overall because it's in Kansas City.
And I could maybe walk there.
Well, I mean, you would have to if you're going to be around here.
I mean, yeah.
Because when we first moved to this location and Sprint had, 10,000, 12,000 workers over there, boy, 119th and Metcalf was a zoo.
We could also sell parking for $100 a spot.
Could.
So
yeah.
Hey, there we go. Dylan, the businessman.
Business.
Hey, he's not a businessman. He's a businessman.
But the last thing I want to hear from anybody with the Royals is I've heard them mention Truist Park or somebody close to it. It's like, well, Atlanta and Truist Park, they've built out away from downtown. You know what Atlanta did with Truist Park? You know where that's located? Essentially the Truman Sports Complex. Right on the corner of 435 and I-70, where the Truman Sports Complex is, and you're right on the highway. Truist Park is immediate access right on the corner of 285 and I-75. Right there, immediate access. There are 6 stoplights on Knoll from 119th to 435. There are 6 stoplights along the way to get there. There are 4 stoplights from 119th and Metcalf to get to 435. And if you want to go from Knoll to Metcalf, you're going through another 4 stoplights to get there just to get on Metcalf. And when you get to 435, you don't have an immediate access to like I-70. Yeah, you can get to 35 if you're wanting to go north and south if you're heading that way, but 35 and 69 sort of the same anyway.
And let me tell you something.
But what if you're going northeast? What if you need to get northeast
The worst
in Kansas
configured
City?
light system in this city might be Metcalf from about 75th Street to 135th Street.
Oh, yeah.
I would say, as far as like sensors and things that operate efficiently, because it seems like it stops the main thoroughfare, which is Metcalf, to let out all these, strip mall, these stores and stuff. And so if you're leaving the game, like you're saying, boy, it is added on top of the garages, basically.
Right, and Washington Square has 35 and 670 and 71 and I-70 around it. Within close access, it's got the trolley that can take you to different places and parking spots around downtown. And North Kansas City, I mean, I know it's across the river, and sometimes it can be difficult to get across the bridges in certain spots. But I think there could be such a blank slate in that area that couldn't you, in theory, design and develop traffic patterns specific to getting to and from the new stadium and ballpark district that you would build? Because you want it to be year-round. They want to build an amphitheater. They want to do other things around it. So could you design roads while you're building the stadium in different ways to get quicker access to other things right across the river? I don't know. But I know that people that want to complain about access downtown to a ballpark, I don't think you want to be around here with how long it takes to get to 435. Look, if you're coming from the south, okay, maybe not that big of a deal. Head up I-35 or 69 or whatever, or take the back roads if you're south of Metcalf, or 119th, I should say. Then maybe it's easier for you. But if you're north, and if you're in the northeast, and if you're out in the east, it's not a centrally located spot for the area. And if you're up north, good luck.
So I've changed.
Might as well live in St. Joe.
I looked it up. It's 1.4 miles away. Would be my walk from my house.
You're not doing that.
A couple beers. I'm doing that.
I
will ride my bicycle up there.
You'd buy a moped. Just
I
so
will
you can
buy
ride
a bicycle.
Vespa.
I will pump up the tires of my bicycle, and I will do that. So you know what? I've changed.
Electric scooter.
Stu's in, baby. Built it right there. I'll get a bicycle.
Those little, what are those birds, or what are those things are called? Those electric scooters that you just go and swipe your credit card and you get to use it a little bit.
Birds.
There'd be birds everywhere around here. They'd just be laying on every street corner.
I hate it.
They're gonna be birds.
I hate those.
Every street corner is going to be a bird around here with people that are using those to get
show
to and
them
from
the
their
bird,
car.
am I right?
Yeah, you're right, I guess. So yeah, it's the latest in a long line of this whole thing. Define mid-year. I don't know. That was the generic term that John Sherman used back in February of when they will find out or figure out where they're going to go. Mid-year 2025, which is a little bit after when they said they were going to pick a site in 2023. Mid-year 2025 is after. I'm just looking up at a calendar right now. So in February, when John Sherman says what'll be mid-year, we'll have a site in mind. That is after when they said they would have a site in 2023, mid-year 2025. But here we are. I don't know if this means they're going to Sprint Campus, Hesperia, whatever we want to call it, or if it's just a negotiating ploy, or if it's just an investment group that sees an opportunity to make, millions of dollars here quickly on it. I have no idea. But I know it's a terrible spot to put a ballpark just because there's land. There's a lot of land in different places. Doesn't mean it's a good spot to put a ballpark, I'll go.
Well,
I'll support it.
Jason, I was told one thing.
What?
If they build it, they will come.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. We got up until 2 o'clock. Texas and Florida in the College World Series, Women's College World Series. Texas, Florida, big SEC matchup in the opening round. Texas has now hit back-to-back home runs to take a 3-0 lead in the 6th. I love the Women's College World Series because it has a very international sort of, whether that be soccer or, you know what, the World Baseball Classic, when you're playing the Latin countries and they're singing and chanting the whole game.
Yeah.
Like the Women's College World Series, like the dugouts, whoever's up to bat, like singing and chanting. They have all these different types of, battle, hit it to Seattle, Reese's, hit it into pieces, Kit Kat, hit it to the warning track. You know what I mean? Things like that.
I don't know if you just came up with those or not, but those are impressive.
No, they're a very, very popular one. 3-2, what you going to do? Walk 'em? Or her? You know what I mean?
We want a pitcher, not a belly itcher.
That's what I said.
That's what I remember.
That's what I said. We want a single S-I-N-G-L-E.
What?
That was an older one. You would go all around and H-O-H-O-M-H-O-M-E-R-U-N, home run.
Last time the Royals hit back-to-back home runs.
When was that?
Since Texas softball just did.
Yeah.
August 1st, 2024, when Vinny and Bobby went back-to-back.
Nice. You just looked that up real quick?
Yeah.
That's awesome. How about that? Look at you. That was quick. You were quick on the trigger there, bud.
Tried to.
Nice job. We talked about Noah Cameron in the first hour and how phenomenal he's been, and the Royals getting ready for a crucial 3-game set against the Tigers. Tigers playing absolutely great baseball right now. Royals are 7 games back of the Tigers. And let's hope they can take the series and be only 6 games back. At worst, lose the series 2-1 and be 8 games back. At best, be 4 games back. Disaster would be 10 games out of first place, waking up on Monday or going to bed Sunday night with the Tigers. They have the pitching matchup in their favor this weekend. That includes the fact that the Tigers are throwing Skubal on Saturday, but they are going to have the pitching matchup in most of the games and series that they have against these teams. But they do not have the offensive advantage, even if you take relatively what the Royals pitcher is against the Tigers pitcher, but the Tigers pitcher throwing against the Royals offense and the Royals pitcher throwing against the Tigers offense, Detroit has that advantage in all 3 games, especially Saturday.
Same amount of games played between these two teams. Do you want to take a guess at the difference in runs scored?
So what are the games? It's 57?
You want to take a difference in how many
100,
runs?
105.
Difference between
I'm gonna guess like a couple runs a game.
So you think Detroit scored 105? You're very close. I'm shocked you're even that close.
Oh wow,
100 exactly.
How about that?
The Tigers have scored 100 more runs than the Royals. The White Sox have scored 8 more runs than the Royals in 1 fewer game.
It's only 8 more runs. Okay.
White Sox, one of
I know.
Like it is. I know we sometimes feel like we might be harping too much or over-exaggerating the disaster that is the Royals' offense so far this year.
Yeah.
100 fewer runs than the Tigers. They've given up 11 less.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
The Tigers' pitching staff's been great.
Yeah, they have got the number 1 bullpen ERA this year, and they've got potentially back-to-back Cy Young winner in Tariq Skubal.
Yeah.
And it's not like they've got a bunch of other scrubs that are 2, 3, 4, and 5 in their rotation. But offensively, they've been really good, and part of that is Javi Baez and whatever he's on or changing, and Torkelson. Give him credit for he's got the pedigree, and he had been struggling, and then he adjusts his swing in the offseason. Give him credit for that clearly working. Michael Garcia adjusted his swing in the offseason, and that's working for him. And Riley Green is a star. And he's been that this year for them.
Kerry Carpenter, Colt Keith. I mean, they have some. Right. I've said for a while now, Detroit is one of those teams where if you love baseball, you watch baseball, you'll know these guys and realize they're really talented players. If you are just a casual fan, you're like, oh, Dodgers, Padres, Yankees. You'll be like, who's this guy?
Who is this
guy? Who's this guy?
Never heard
and
of
yet
him.
they all rake. The reason why I'm bringing it up, the Royals' ineptitude again, why trade might not be on the horizon, why it's kind of bad that so many teams are in the middle of the pack right now.
Yeah.
You look at it, almost no team is out. Baltimore, but they still are thinking that they might have a chance. White Sox are out. That's it in the AL. NL, Miami, Pittsburgh, and then the Rockies. It's not like there's a lot of trade partners out there for KC.
But with the Royals, I think you would be able to have strength for trade strength for a weakness, fix a weakness on another team's strength that could help both teams that are in contention. And that would be a team that has a plethora of bats that needs pitching, while the Royals have a plethora of pitching and they need bats. And I think there are 3 candidates for that. Michael Lorenzen would fetch you the least if you were to trade him. Noah Cameron, I think, would fetch you the second least. Second most, whatever. Second most is a better way to view it. And I think Seth Lugo would bring back the biggest.
The third least. Oh, okay.
I think Lugo would, because Lugo would be more of an established guy. You know what Lugo's going to bring you, even though he can opt out at the end of this year and probably will. But I think he would bring back the most, because Noah Cameron, while he would have 6 years of control after this year, he has only 4 starts.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 guys that I think if you're discussing a trade, you're either trying to get somebody from a really bad team and you're trading one of your prospects, or you're trading one of your major league guys that are helping you, but you've got answers at that spot, to a team that has answers at that spot that will help the Royals. We've talked about the Dodgers being one of them. I've thrown the name Dalton Rushing out there, and that would probably be Lugo and somebody else. You know, Freeland is a shortstop, third base. It might be like, somebody like Noah Cameron. Those are guys that will be discussed. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour. We got the Chiefs press conferences coming up at 1 o'clock. More Zone next. We'll hear from the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Isaiah Pacheco, George Karlaftis, and also Xavier Worthy. Big play in the College World Series, Women's College World Series, Texas and Florida in the opening game. We've been watching this one. It's a fun one so far. Florida's the number 3 overall seed. Texas the 6th seed. Texas is up 3-0 with a pair of home runs from one of their power hitters. They also had back-to-back in the same inning. But Texas also had bases loaded and 1 out. And they had a grounder to the second baseman that fielded it, reached back because they had the infield pulled in for play at the plate, reached back, lunged, tagged the runner heading to second, spun, fired to first for the double play. It was a hell of a play.
Double play in softball is tough.
Yeah, heck of a play to keep Florida in the game because that thing gets through. They're down 5-0 in the 6th inning. It's toast at that point.
What question does Patrick get asked? How are you planning on revamping the deep pass? How are you trying to get the deep pass more involved this upcoming season?
Yeah, I
What question number is that?
hopefully 0.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen.
I know. Or it's brought up in some way, shape, or form of, the connection.
I'm saying second question.
Oh, no. What do you see from Royals? What are you seeing from Royals? What's your impression of Josh Simmons? Things like that. When the Chiefs start, we'll head out there and listen in to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and we'll hear from Isaiah Pacheco and Xavier Worthy. We'll hear from George Karlaftis. Not sure Rashee Rice or Hollywood Brown were spotted at the OTAs. But looks like everybody else there in a wide receiver wise. Sorry, I shouldn't say everybody else. Wide receiver wise, have not seen in some of the videos that have been posted. Have not seen a man wearing number 87 yet. So
it's probably the gym.
Yeah,
on a treadmill.
He's just up in the gym, just working on his fitness. It's like Fergie. But Karlaftis there, Pacheco's there. By the way, Pro Football Focus, and by saying the name, probably giving it away. Pro Football Focus named a bounce back candidate for every NFL team, all 32 NFL teams, every one of them, all of the NFL teams. The one they chose for the Chiefs, Isaiah Pacheco, as a bounce back candidate, which I think the Chiefs have more candidates for bounce back than they do like regression or progression that we talked about yesterday. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I think Pacheco was certainly a bounce back candidate. Would Rashee Rice count as a bounce back candidate because of injury, or would he be, the
comeback player of the year?
Comeback type player. I mean, comeback, bounce back, whatever, but he's coming back from injury, not necessarily bouncing back. But also Pacheco, his season was lesser than because of the injury. And the Chiefs certainly believe that when he came back from the injury, the explosiveness wasn't there the way that it was before the injury. So that was limiting his production.
It is unfair, by the way, because he came back a little earlier than I think we all expected Pacheco did, and you're almost holding that against him.
Yeah.
While if
this guy fought to get back, well, you got back, yeah, but he wasn't as good as you thought. Why do you says? Well, here's Andy Reid.
Back in here and going. This phase 3 is again, this is a voluntary camp. We've had great attendance throughout the phase 2 and phase 3 periods here. So we've got a couple people that are under the weather. So we were short a couple guys today, but that's for the most part, it's been very good. And I'm not going to get into injuries and all of that bit, but I've been pleased with what I've seen from the guys and the effort they're giving forward. The young guys have been working their tail off, and we've been loading them up with stuff, and they've seemed to be able to retain it, which is a positive. So, anyways, that's time's yours.
Because when you talked about it, that was going to be my question. What exactly are you looking for when you're out there, especially with the young players, new players in, talking about the information and the retention? Are you pleased with what you've seen so far?
Yeah, so some of it is a retention part of it. And then you get a chance to see skill. Now, normally they're kind of crawling before they walk and walk before they run, in that phase. So they're might not be as fast as what you're going to see once you get to camp and as you work your way through camp. But still, they're doing a nice job of it for the most part.
Coach, earlier in the week, you were able to see Rashee. I guess just what were your impressions of what he's been able to do so far during this?
Yeah, he's actually one of the guys under the weather. So we've kept him at home here. So, but in phase 2, he was great. He just wasn't able to go this week, so kept him out away from the guys.
Coach, you mentioned throwing before, you're throwing the young guys in there, just seeing how they respond. Do you throw as much at them as possible, or you kind of just build it up?
Yeah, we go and expect them to, get on top of it. And normally, what you're doing, it's a little bit like camp, where you're installing plays today, and then we ask them to go execute those plays. We try not to back up and go over the plays we installed yesterday, but at the same time, if you're not doing your stuff at home before you get into the install meetings and reviewing, then you're going to have a problem once you get out there. So it looks like these guys are taking, and there's a method to that madness, so they have to go home and develop some study habits with that. And they seem to be doing a good job of it.
A lot of moving pieces at wide receiver. What are you hoping to see out of a guy like Sky Moore before the pads come on in camp?
Sure. Yeah, just getting back into the swing of things, but he looks like he's doing a good job. So can move it around pretty good. He's been accurate with everything and sharp kid.
How has Josh Simmons kind of come along with his injury and how he's retaining stuff?
Yeah, so he's one that didn't work this week, but he's been doing everything up to that point. He's actually further ahead than I thought he was, and we might actually be able to get. Originally, we weren't going to have him in the phase 3 part at all, other than the individual stuff. So we've kept him out of the team stuff with that. But he did all of phase 2. He's done a good job of what we've seen. We just got to get him in with the defense against him. So.
And as you build it with Xavier Worthy, last year you built him along the season and sort of learned more plays and more roles within the offense. What do you see different when he comes in this year now?
Yeah, well, you can move him around a little bit more. So he's a smart kid. It gives you a little flexibility there to not just line him up in a spot. But we started doing that towards the end of the year, and we'll keep moving with that part. And then, he knows all the stuff. So he can play fast and not do quite as much thinking.
Andy, what do you see from Isaiah Pacheco?
Yeah, he looks good. Physically, he looks real good. He's put on a couple pounds and of good weight. He'd gotten himself down there a little bit last year and leaned up. But man, I think he looks tremendous right now.
Andy, with the veterans out there like Chris Jones, Patrick Mahomes, those guys, how have you seen them evolve into the leaders with these young guys in these type of periods where it's voluntary, but it's still good to see them show up and try to help these young guys?
Yeah, sure. We've had all the veteran guys, all the good leaders have been here, and it's good to have them there. When they're there, there's a certain energy that comes with it, expectations from all the either new guys or free agent type or the college kids. So they set a tempo with that. Yeah.
Kingsley with the position switch, I guess just how is he been coming along and what makes him maybe a better fit for that inside position?
Yeah, so we moved him there for that second Denver game. So I mentioned that was one of the positives, one of the only positives that came out of that game. So I thought he did a nice job there. And so we're moving him in there. And listen, Spags runs a million different looks, so this is the best thing for him to get in there and have a bunch of things thrown at him. And he's doing a nice job so far. So.
Do you consider that an open competition still for left guard? Do you want to see what Kingsley can bring there?
Yeah, so, he and Kelly Endo are working there and doing that. Yeah.
You know, you get to see Jalen Moore at left tackle, for the first time. What's the impressions there early? So
Strong kid. Looks, he's smart. As you can tell, he's compact and strong, it looks like to me, without going live. It's hard to do the O-line, D-line, because they just get to a contact point and then kind of pull off and do their thing. But he's, he looks like he's a strong kid. And he's definitely smart. He's a sharp kid.
Coach, I don't think we talked to you about the schedule since it came out, since it was after rookie minicamp. What your thoughts? You're going to Brazil. You got Christmas again. Is it? How's it lay out for you guys?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's quite a tour.
You don't have one of those really. You had that really tight stretch near the end last year, which was a real challenge, I know. But is this a little more spread out? I guess.
Yeah, no, look, you're playing all the teams. It doesn't matter where you're playing them. You got to play these guys, and they're doing the same thing we're doing and playing on the same days we are. So we got to get ourselves ready and go. You've only got so many weeks you can play, and you want to make sure you take advantage of that. So I don't get caught up in all that. Whenever and whatever goes, we go.
Herbie? Coach, you mentioned earlier that you saw Josh Simmons as further ahead than what you expected. Granted, there's still time before training camp, but how much is that projection he will be ready for the start? Or I know you want to play it safe.
Yeah, no, I think for sure for camp, we might be able to get something out of him in the team periods in phase 3 here. So that's a positive. We weren't expecting to be able to do that, but he's really done a good job with his rehab stuff, and the doctor that did his surgery did a nice job. So.
Coach, you've had Justin Ross for a couple of years now. Where does he fit in the wide receiver room?
Yeah, as long as he stays healthy and he's out there, that's a plus. I mean, he competes. I mean, you could argue that he had one of the best camps last year, and it's just a matter of keeping them upright and trying to work them in that mix of guys. But he's a big receiver that has got real good hands and has done a nice job for us.
For the last one, Matt.
Coach, what's the importance of rotating guys this time of year to really see what you have?
Yeah, I probably should have mentioned that earlier, that we're moving guys all over the place. So whether it's the young receivers, whether it's the DBs, linebackers, so we're just kind of fitting pieces in there like we normally do during the preseason time. So in the offensive line, like I said, we're moving those guys all over too. So it's that pays off for you, I think, once you get going here. Try to find the best people for those positions, what they do the best.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, there's Andy Reid. We'll hear from Patrick Mahomes when he gets to the podium. Rashee Rice was not there because of an injury, was asked to stay away from the team because illness, Jesus. Not because of an injury, because of illness.
Wow.
Illness. Was asked to stay away because he was ill.
He was ill, not sick.
He had a license to ill, okay? And they gave him a license to not be there because he was ill. Rice, illness, not there, illness. Travis Kelce was there but not out on the field today, but has been at the at OTAs. Pacheco's put on some good weight, looks tremendous, and a lot of positive things being said about Josh Simmons. That they didn't have him work this week. He was working in other OTAs, but they didn't have him work this week. They want to get him in more, team stuff, and said he looks good and is ahead of where they thought he would be. Here's Patrick Mahomes.
With this and doing the OTAs and Chris Jones being out here, how important is it for you guys to kind of set the tone and set the tempo for these guys that are trying to learn the system, and even the free agents that are coming into the system as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's awesome to have the leadership that we have, and to have guys like Trav and Chris Jones who are still coming to OTAs and getting the work in. It kind of shows that the standard that we have here, and we've been doing it all throughout this spring. As guys are working hard, you can tell they're motivated to go out there and be even better this next year. So it starts here, and I think guys understand that.
Patrick, you're still months away from actually turning 30, but I do wonder if you're starting to have any sense of how long you've been around all of a sudden, and what your view is from now back to when you first got started, how different it might feel physically and mentally.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first off, kids, I feel like age you a little bit. So having 3 kids makes you grow up, but it's been a fun run, and we've had a lot of great players in this building, a lot of great people. And so it makes it enjoyable to come to work every single day. And I still got some guys with me that have been there the whole time. And then adding new guys gives you a new juice and a new spirit to go out there and be even better. And so a lot of young guys now, so just trying to relate to them as much as I can. But at the same time, I'm still not 30 yet, so I feel like I can for at least right now.
Do you feel a difference in your body at 29, though, from 20, 21, 22, and punishment of the NFL for all these years?
Not necessarily. I think more than anything, I have a better understanding of my body, so I know what I need to get in. I know the extra amount of recovery stuff I need to do, how to feel my best on a day-to-day basis. And obviously, I probably bounced back a little bit quicker when I was younger, but at the same time, I have a better plan and a better standard that I kind of hold myself to on a day-to-day basis, so I can be ready for every single practice.
Patrick, you mentioned the young guys. What's your approach to mentoring them?
I always want to meet the person first, and so it's about getting to know the person and then seeing what I can do to help them get better and help them push forward, because it is hard. I mean, it starts OTAs, but going through training camp and going through a long NFL season is hard, and you want to the guys to know that you care about them, so you care about them as a person first, and then you mentor them on the field by pushing them to be better every day.
Generally, how long does you feel like it takes for you to understand their individual personalities, because everybody's different?
Yeah, I mean, once you get to St. Joe and you live in those dorms, you kind of start understanding each person more and more. And so, no, it's cool getting here OTAs, being in the building, meeting the guys, and kind of building that relationship on the field. And then when you get to kind of training camp in the season, you really get to meet the person even more. And so that's why we always harp on it. But it is fun to go into St. Joe and kind of meeting all the new teammates and new free agents that you have.
What's your biggest takeaway from in your focus and how you lock in from when you lose a Super Bowl versus when you win one? Because
yeah, I mean it's hard. I mean, I feel like I focus every year because I know how special a run that we're on, and how many years left I'll have with all these great players and a great team. Every team's different, and you don't want to miss an opportunity. But I mean, obviously, when you when you lose the Super Bowl, I think there's sometimes in those workouts where you may be a little tired. You have that extra added motivation to finish even harder, finish even stronger. And I think it'll be good for us at the end of the day. I mean, obviously looking back, you want to win the game, but a lot of these guys hadn't ended the season on a loss that are on this team now. So I'm sure they'll be motivated to go back out there and try to find a way to get to the Super Bowl and win it this year.
Patrick, you mentioned Travis and him being here. I guess what's your sense of the shape he's in and the motivation to, like, if this is the last ride, just sort of make it count?
I mean, if it's the last ride, you would never know. I mean, the way he's talking about football, the way he's talking about working and trying to be even better this year than he was last year. I mean, he's not. It doesn't seem like a guy that it's his last ride. Like he's tired of the job. I mean, he's in here, he's working, and I know his body feels good. I think it feels better than even last year before going into last season. Just because I think he's motivated to go out there and have an even better year than he had this last.
Patrick, I know you're the ultimate sports fan, and I'm sure you grew up watching those Thanksgiving Day games with the Dallas Cowboys. What's it going to be like to play?
Yeah, it's gonna be special. I mean, I've wanted to play at Cowboy Stadium, obviously, just because I haven't got the opportunity to actually play in the game. We played my first year we were there. I was at the game, but I didn't get to play. And I'm growing up watching those games, going to those games was a special experience with me and my family. So I'm excited to get everybody there, and then to play on Thanksgiving. I mean, you're Thanksgiving in Texas, you're watching the Cowboys play, and so it'll be a special moment. I know those ticket prices went up a little bit for me, but other than that, I mean, it's gonna be cool to play on Thanksgiving, have the prime time, have that 3 o'clock kick, and be able to go out there and play in front of hopefully a lot of my friends and family.
Have you been to one of those Thanksgiving games?
I haven't been to a Thanksgiving game. I obviously went to a lot of games growing up, and I played it there when I was in college. So it'll be exciting. And my son's birthday is the day after. So hopefully we can find a way to win and then get to celebrate my son's birthday the day after that.
Sam? Patrick, a couple things. What's the importance of having Travis out here? I know he wasn't here today, but he's been here.
Yeah. It's extremely important. I mean, just because whenever you have, like I always say this, whenever you have the guy that's already got the gold jacket on, if it's him or Chris Jones, and they're working hard and they're showing what it takes to be great, it's easier for me to talk to the young guys and say, like, when they're tired, that they need to keep working, they need to keep pushing because they don't need to be here. They don't need to be here, and they're still going to go out there and have success on the field. They take care of their bodies and work hard in the off season, and so for them to still show up and set that standard, it sets the standard for everybody else that's going on the practice field.
And then on Xavier Worthy, I wanted to ask you about him too. What did you learn about him those final 6-7 weeks maybe this last year?
I think the biggest thing I learned is he's not. I mean, I knew this, but with more opportunities, he's not just fast. He can make plays, and you saw that with some of the contested catches that he made kind of towards the end of the season. If you think back to the Bills game, or even the last catch he had in the Super Bowl, I mean, he's someone that will go up and make a play on the football, and so my job is to give him more opportunities. Even when he's running with somebody and it's one-on-one, throw the ball, let him go up there and make a play. I think adding Hollywood being healthier and then having Rasheed back out there is going to give him more and more opportunities to stretch the field down the field.
On the draft night, you posted a happy emoji when the team selected Josh Simmons. I guess just how excited are you to see him and maybe potentially have this left tackle with future ability?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, just he's built like a left tackle. I think that's the biggest thing you see. I mean, obviously, we're building him up with coming off the injury, but he looks great. I mean, he's moving well. He's doing all the right things, and he's working extremely hard. And whenever I go by the training room, he's in the training room working to try to get back on that field as quickly as possible. And so, more than that, I think Veach and Coach Reed and all those guys, they brought in competition, and they want guys to go out there and be the best they can possibly be. And I'm excited for us to get through training camp and get to go against our defensive line, which will be a really good defensive line, and it'll be a great test for those guys to kind of prepare for the season.
Todd mentioned Rasheed played most of the year without him. We've heard good things about what he's looked like. He wasn't out there today because he's sick. But
yeah.
What's he look like for you right now?
I mean, he looks like Rasheed. I mean, I think obviously having the injury it sucked, but happening so early in the season, he was back like right when the off season started, and so he was up here working hard, extremely hard, and he was back home working extremely hard. And so I was throwing with him in Dallas a little bit, and then getting him back out here, and there's no limitations. He's out there playing, he's making plays on the football field, he's explosive, he looks fast, and you saw the start of last season. I think he can be one of the best receivers in the league, and so just to have him, to add with Xavier and Hollywood and all these other guys that we have, it's another position I think Veach has done a great job of bringing in competition, so that we can go out there and make a lot of plays out of him.
Matt? With the receiver group between the workouts in Texas and getting back here, what kind of stands out to you so far? And what have you kind of learned about maybe some of the new faces that you're throwing to?
We're fast. I think that's probably the thing that stands out the most. You talk about Xavier, Rasheed, Hollywood, Thornton, Royals coming in. Like, we got guys that can roll, and our job is to test the defenses down the field, and we have to get back to doing that if we want to open up other guys underneath. So I think Coach Reed's challenged me this offseason to push the ball down the field, let guys have chances to make plays, and then once we get that back to where we want to in our standard that we believe we should have, then we can come back to the underneath stuff.
We'll do a few more. Herbie, Harold, and Steve. Go ahead, Herbie.
Patrick, sticking along the same lines with the wide receiver group, Sky Moore, you got a good chance to look at him again during the offseason, but what are your expectations for him this season?
Yeah, his job is to come in here and compete. Sky always is one of the hardest working guys on the football field, and whenever his numbers call, you see him go out there and he makes plays happen. And so, like I said, Veach has brought in such great competition in that room that it's you kind of go in with an open mind, and you let guys go out there and compete and try to see who the best 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever guys that is, make the team. But it's all about competing and making each other better.
Harold?
Patrick, a year down the road, but with the Olympics coming up and NFL players being allowed to play flag football, I know Travis has put his 2 cents in. I know you've said stuff before, but now that it's a thing, how much you try to petition Andy to try to, play in that?
Yeah, I know it's awesome, honestly, just to be able to showcase the NFL to the whole world through flag football. But I'll probably leave that to the younger guys. I'll be a little older by the time that thing comes around.
Steve?
Patrick, Pop went back to school, got his degree. What does that say about him that he's willing to be able to go do that?
Yeah, for sure. That's what you want in life. It's obviously we want to win football games and we want to win as many Super Bowls and everything as possible. But we want to become better people. And for Pop to go back and to get his degree, because he's an NFL player, he doesn't have to do that, and he wants to make not only himself better for the community, but generations to come and his family better by saying that he has a degree, and that's special, and I'm happy for him.
Good. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks.
All right, there's Patrick Mahomes. We'll hear from Xavier Worthy. We'll hear from Isaiah Pacheco, and we will hear from George Karlaftis. How about Rashee Rice? No limitations. So working out with him down in Dallas and then working out with him in OTAs. He looks exactly like Rashee Rice did last year, and saying, you saw the way that he started the season last year. He could be one of the best wide receivers in the league, but that injury being early sucked, but being early helped, because now he's cutting and running and doing everything and looks exactly like Rashee Rice. So
you see some salt? I'm going to take a grain of it, because what's he going to say?
Well, he could say that he's coming along. Like to say
sure.
To hear no limitations and at least the way he was talking, maybe not just the words, but he sounded
enthusiasm.
Yes, he sounded enthusiastic about that. He wasn't as enthusiastic about Josh Simmons as he was about Rashee Rice in the injury. So to that point, he was like, well, he looks great, working hard to come. Every time I'm walking past the training room, he's in there, getting work done and trying to get back. And he's built like a left tackle, which is good because he's not playing wide receiver. So he's going to be
built like a kicker, but man, that guy is he's playing left tackle, I guess.
Play left tackle. We'll find out.
Shocking.
Which last year their left tackle was built like a guard. That was playing left tackle, and they had to deal with that. So wide receiver group, we're fast. And then it's interesting. They talked about throwing the ball down the field.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Shocking. But it wasn't question 2, so I think I was wrong.
But he did also say, Reed has challenged me this offseason to do that. Not just we're going to try to do that. Reed has challenged me. Here's George Karlaftis.
You want to go first.
Yeah. George, you go back with Ashton. You just talk about the relationship you guys have and how cool is it to see him out here working with him on the field?
Yeah, it's a crazy coincidence, because I've known Ashton for a few years now. We had the staff that I had under Purdue, who I absolutely love, like family, Coach Brom, Mark Hagan, Dominic Reno, all those guys. After I left, they went to Louisville and they had Ashton, and we were just raving about him. So, I spent a lot of the off season out there training with those guys, and took him, and showed him some stuff and helped him out as much as I could, give him my number, and, say, hey, if you have any questions, ask me. And it's kind of been a great relationship. I want to help him out as much as I can. And, I was overseas when the draft was going on. And I had like 50 messages like, hey, Ashton got drafted. It's crazy and all that stuff. So, really happy to have him. I think he'll be a great addition.
Was that on your radar at all?
What's that?
Was that on your radar at all, that you thought that you guys might draft and you might be teammates with him one day?
That's kind of above my head. I'm whoever we're gonna draft, whoever we're gonna bring in, I'm gonna be happy with him.
About potentially playing with him ever?
I had talked with him about a few different things, like when he was going through the combine process and the pre-draft and helping him out because we trained at the same place and all that stuff. So helping out with a few things there. But no, you never think, there's 32 teams. You never think that it'll happen like that, but stars align and it happens. So.
What is it about his game that impresses you?
I think, first and foremost, as a defensive end, as a defensive player, tenacity and, the effort will never betray you. So definitely that, and that sticks out. He's a strong kid. He wants to be good. He's humble and he's a hard worker. All that is aside from all the great physical attributes he has. So I think he'll be a great player in this league.
George, between that addition and Omar, those 4 picks you just had in the defensive line,
yeah.
Just what do you think that's going to mean for the pass rush this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I know those guys. They're young, they're eager, they want to learn, they're humble. All things that you want to see in rookies and young guys, and we're going to help them out. And there's going to be some competition in the D-line room, I'm sure, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Iron sharpens iron. So.
You got a chance to work out with Tom Ali last year with the jiu-jitsu stuff, and you're doing it again this off season.
Yeah.
Any thoughts of bringing some of your other teammates along to kind of help them, because obviously.
Anybody who wants to come is welcome. So.
Hey George, what does it mean to you to have Chris Jones here in a week like this?
It's huge. When we're all together, when the band's together, it's great. We have a lot of fun. We get better. It's felt like an in-season practice almost, because we were going at it. We were working on stuff, so it's a lot of fun, and it's great to have everybody together.
George, on the business side of football, the Chiefs exercised a 5th-year option on you. What did that mean to you, and how hopeful are you that you are able to work out something long-term that you are here beyond that?
Yeah, I'll let whoever is to handle that, but, I'd like to be here as long as I can. My now fiance and I absolutely love Kansas City, love this organization. So, I'll let whoever is to handle that, but I love it here.
Your advanced metrics last year, suggested that you probably had a better season like the sacks show, and that's what people focus on. How does it feel? I mean, you were named last week one of the most underrated players in the league. Do you feel like that you're underrated, or do you feel like there's something you still need to prove?
I don't need to prove anything to anybody other than the people in this building. That's how I feel. Coach Cullen, Coach Spags, Coach Reed, my teammates, I got their back just like they got mine, and try to put my best foot forward every day to get better and do what I can on the field, and whatever recognition's to come, it'll come. I'm not really worried about that at all. I love this team. Have a lot of fun playing here, and it's a blessing of a lifetime, truly, to be a part of this. So.
What's kind of your focus during the offseason?
Well, every offseason, you take a little bit of time off, right? So you get the body healthy, get all that stuff going, and then you see, for me at least, I always look back on the film and see how I can improve. I go through every single game. I'm like, all right, this is my game plan, and how I'm going to attack the off season, and what I want to focus on. I think I was pretty dialed in with that last year, and just the constant pursuit of perfection. Obviously you're going to fall short, but just constantly trying to get better. Identifying the stuff I want to do better, I want to be better at, and kind of going from there.
There's a good group of you guys that have not ended the season on a loss. You've won Super Bowls your first 2 years. How much did that chew at you? Did you go back and watch that film? What's that for motivation, since it was dreamlike, I guess, the first couple of years?
Yeah, it definitely serves as motivation going into this season. You never want to end a season like that, but it's going to be motivation for this year, for sure.
Thanks, George.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there's George Karlaftis. Tenacity, effort, strong. That's what he was describing Ashton Gillotte as, and the crazy coincidence of Gillotte being a Kansas City Chief after working with him in the offseason. 5th-year option, long-term deal. I'll let handle that, whoever needs to handle that. I like it here. I want to be here as long as I can. My now fiance loves it here as well. Here's Xavier Worthy.
It feels good to be able to get this experience. Last year I was hurt with a hamstring, so just to have this role and this level of just extra training is good to get that kind of rapport with him.
What do you work on specifically though, like in Texas and all that? Is it route running? Is it just where the ball to be? Like how does it work?
Just understanding like what he wants and how he wants it. Really, I feel like last year was kind of just rushing things in training camp. I just kind of get thrown in the fire in training camp. So just learning what he likes and what fits best what we do.
When you compare this time this year to last year at this time, I guess just mentally, how further along do you feel, and how is that helping you develop in that sense?
I feel mentally, I feel like I'm the same as last year, just the physical aspect. Last year I was hurt, and this year I'm kind of getting into it. I kind of got a better feel for things.
Xavier, how important was the second half of last year and moving around a little bit to your comfort of just wherever you're placed in the offense this year?
Yeah, like you said, the end of last year was kind of like a stepping stone for me. Just learning and kind of getting a better feel for what Pat likes, and I started feeling like that. It got better at the end of the year, so just continue that and use that momentum.
How do you feel like your growth is as a football player from obviously when you first got here to now?
Man, I understand the offense. I feel way more comfortable just being out there. I understand it. I don't have to really think a lot. I just be on the fly.
There are no OTA practices or live. Looked like you had a one-hand catch out there today. What did you see on that side?
Oh man, Pat just threw the ball. And I just reflexes.
Patrick Holmes said that this is a really fast team, and he's looking forward to all the receivers. Just as a receiver who is fast, what do you have to say about just this group of guys?
Oh man, we got a lot of fast receivers, but Taekwon called me out last year. Well, right after the Super Bowl, he called us out, but I feel like I'm the fastest. But Hollywood, Taekwon, we got a lot of guys out there ready to compete, and a lot of guys ready to go get the ball deep.
How impressed have you been with Taekwon? It seems like he's kind of coming to his own a little bit.
Yeah, he's a really good receiver. I feel like we got him a little late last year, and he has a chance to get on the roster and make a lot of plays.
The second half of the Super Bowl was obviously unusual circumstances, but I wonder how much you feel like that, displayed a dimension that you guys really can have with the long balls and the ability to break a defense down that way.
Yeah, it kind of just showed what's here to come in the future.
Xavier, you a veteran now, right? You got some young guys in the room, Royals.
So according to them, I'm still a rookie.
Really? How much are they leaning on you to ask you different questions?
they still ask you some questions, but yeah, according to them, I'm still a rookie.
Really?
Hey, Xavier, obviously some off-field headlines this past. What have you learned from the last few months? I guess what do you take away from the experiences the last few months?
I kind of just want to stay football and don't want to talk about personal life.
How much were you watching the combine with your Golden and not catching your time?
Yeah, they was talking a lot of crap, so I kind of talked a little bit.
All right. Thanks, Xavier.
Appreciate y'all.
All right, there's Xavier Worthy. We'll hear from Isaiah Pacheco next. Worthy saying that last year being injured, obviously a little bit different this year in OTAs. Said mentally feels the same, but physically obviously better because he was hurt. And the end of last year was that stepping stone to grow with Patrick Mahomes. He said figuring out what Pat likes and just an overall understanding of just the offense, where he's supposed to be, what he's doing, that big step at the end of last year. Here is Isaiah Pacheco.
So much to me and my family to be the first generation graduate. So, just a big part of my career there that I wanted to finish, and I had to go back, and I did it. I'm so blessed.
How were you able to balance, football, and were you on online classes?
Yes, I was on online classes. It started in the spring, so I was able to go back once, the Super Bowl was finishing up, and I was able to hit it hard and, lock in and put all my my mental toughness towards that.
You got the Rutgers gear on today. I guess how much does Rutgers and Jersey really still mean to you, like even to this day?
It means a lot to me. It's where I'm from. Go hard to go home, and it's what we know. And I'm aware any chance I get to block R.
Was this something when you did leave Rutgers, you were like, I'm always going to go back and graduate and just make sure I do that?
Absolutely. One time I was in class and I seen some older gentlemen in class, and I'm like, oh, it's never too late to go back. And he was probably one of the tallest students in there, but he was an older gentleman. I'm like, yo, like that right there, that's motivation. Like, you're never too old to go back and get your degree.
Isaiah, Andy mentioned something about the weight that you put on. It's a good weight that you put on. I'm just wondering, was that a point of emphasis for you? Can you kind of take us through the weight that you fluctuated with a year ago?
Absolutely. Just going through injuries. I want to gain weight, be a little more heavier to surpass that, and to get better and build off of this past year's on the field of play.
Is there a certain number that you targeted this year that you're at?
Y'all find out that once we get near the games.
What's the key on that injuries and stuff last year? I guess how are you from a physical standpoint? How are you feeling?
I feel great. I'll say my mental toughness is good and my physical toughness is awesome. I'm just happy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, and congratulations on the degree. During that time where you were injured mentally, how was you able to, what brought you out of it, and what did you learn from your time from the injury? I think the first couple of years you were here, I think you were fine, but last year was as long as you've been out. So how was that mentally for you to come out of that? Definitely,
just always fighting to get back and working so hard, and it starts with the weight. It always started with the weight, but it's coming off of injuries. The season as long as it gets, so you're fighting for positions. You're out there working your tail off and just sweating every day, and not eating enough to get the weight back is not gonna be as much time to gain weight during the season rather than off season, and the whole program that they have here for us.
Isaiah, how did you feel different at the end of last season than you normally feel?
I felt like everything was going back to normal, and just excited that we made it to the Super Bowl, and able to go 3 times in a row was surreal for me.
Patrick mentioned there's a large group of you guys who all you'd ever done was win the Super Bowl. Now you coming off a Super Bowl loss. What sort of motivation is that for you this offseason?
Yes, I use it as a big motivation for me. I'm from Jersey, so I went back home and I worked out at the gym where I started at the YMCA, started reminiscing, and you got people that's from New Jersey, so they wear Eagle hats and stuff all the time, and they question me like, wow, like you were in here, like like we got y'all this year. So that right there, it only motivates you to go harder, to go, to continue to work, because you got people from your city, the area, they're proud of you. But at the end of the day, like, it's a sport, we're having fun, but most importantly, you got people that's looking out for you.
What's the key when you put weight on to keep quickness? Is that extra work to get heavier and stay quicker?
No, just going back to 216, 437, Isaiah Pacheco style.
Isaiah, you had one of the best quotes ever in a draft day when you said that you were coming here to take a grown man's job. How do you feel now that you're the grown man and there's guys coming to take your job?
Yes, I feel the need that to keep leading the guys, keep going out there and leading by example, and just putting it on tape and having fun.
How do you like the room overall, though?
That's a great room, phenomenal room. Coach and Beach did a great job bringing guys in, just able to compete, and that's what I keep telling them when we break the huddle down. Just keep competing, guys, and getting each other better.
We're going last to Emily and Sam.
As a first-generation graduate myself, what does it mean to you, to your family, and just overall in general?
Yes, I'll say it's a blessing because, coming from where I come from, you don't get too many people that make it, or you don't get too many kids that graduate. Coming from Vineland, graduating college, and not only doing that, but staying home and not being one of those students that transferred and went place to place to place. I actually stayed home and got it tattooed on me, and that's what it's about. Starting where you, finishing where you started.
Last one.
Isaiah, last year it seemed like you had a decision to try and hurry back as quickly as possible versus coming back when you're 100%. What was that balance like for you, wanting just to get back as quickly as possible, even if you weren't completely yourself when you were going to come back?
Yes, I felt great, just light on my feet, and that's what happens when you're dealing with an injury and you're just trying to rush back and get back. You're not worried about the weight, you're worried about the play, just going out and having fun and just trying to be yourself.
Thanks, Isaiah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, there's Isaiah Pacheco. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk about the things that we heard from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, George Karlaftis, Xavier Worthy, and Isaiah Pacheco. More Zone next. game. And then 7 o'clock, Knicks Pacers. 3-1 lead for Indiana.
Knicks and Hicks, baby.
There you go.
Hey, family in Southern Indiana. I'm a Hick, baby.
Hey, Larry Bird said he's a Hick from French Lick.
Which is where I'm going.
Good for you. Congratulations on that. I'll
Told
be going to Hallbrook, so
I'm bummed.
We're both going to different places.
See,
Mine is cooler.
You're the upper class. I'm just
right.
a good old man from one of the more expensive courses in America.
That's right.
But don't
That's right.
smoke screen.
Whatever. We heard from Andy Reid. We heard from Patrick Mahomes, George Karlaftis, Xavier Worthy, Isaiah Pacheco as OTAs this week wrapping up. Rashee Rice was not out there because of an illness. Patrick Mahomes saying that he looks like Rashee Rice. There are no limitations. He's cutting and moving like he did last year. So it was an advantage that the ACL injury happened so early in the season. So certainly that's good to know. Travis Kelce there this week, wasn't out there today, but is in the building this week. Chris Jones and all those guys still there as well. A few things to take away from this. Andy Reid talking about Josh Simmons said he's further along than I thought he was going to be at this time. So it's yet another instance of Andy Reid talking since the draft or since they've seen Josh Simmons in Kansas City of saying, well, actually, it's better than we thought it would be at this particular time. And then was asked about when he'd be able to participate in sort of the team parts of it. And he said, for sure at camp, but we might be able to get something out of him in team stuff here in OTAs, which is a positive that we didn't think we'd have.
Man.
Which is, I mean, all great news. If they think there's even, they wouldn't be pushing it, right? They're not going to do something earlier than they need to because they're not desperate for a left tackle because they signed Jalen Moore.
But it sounds like a legitimate camp battle could pursue if that's the case, where I didn't think that was even in the realm of a possibility. I know they talked about even during the draft of, well, he's farther along. And I go, yeah, that's great and all. Sure. But it won't be, the majority of training camp. And maybe it's not even the first day of training camp. But the way Andy Reid makes it sound, although I will say Andy Reid was much more positive on it than Brett Veach was even on draft night, if we remember correctly. Remember, Andy Reid was basically all reared up, ready to go for Josh, and Veach was a little more tempered in expectations.
That's true. It's a good point.
If you want to at least bring that thought process back here. But again, if there's a legit camp battle, that is great. And it doesn't mean that the Jalen Moore signing was bad, even if he does not get the starting job, because the process was the right process. And that's what you have to go off of. That's what makes great teams great. You don't necessarily luck your way in. Yes, you might have something go your way, but if you have the correct process time and time again, which the process of bringing Jalen Moore in when you didn't have a left tackle because the draft hadn't happened yet was the correct process, and it wasn't overpaying for Dan Moore. The process was the right one, even if Josh Simmons gets the left tackle spot.
Oh, for sure. Because then again, if you start the season with a certain number of players, who's to say that that's what you're going to have middle season, late season? I mean,
correct.
We didn't think DeAndre Hopkins would be on the Kansas City Chiefs and traded for because of necessity, not necessarily because, well, he's just going to add to what is already. He was out there available, and that's what it took to get him. Heck yeah, you want to bring that guy in, helps you win. It was, no, man, you got to have this guy because you don't have much else. You've got a rookie in Xavier Worthy that's learning the position, and they're learning about Xavier Worthy as well in games, not just in training camp and OTAs and minicamp. They're learning about him as well. And you need to bring in DeAndre Hopkins. Juju Smith-Schuster's injured. Rashee Rice is out. Hollywood Brown is out. Travis Kelce's being double-teamed in the focal point of the other team. Isaiah Pacheco's out. The running game isn't working all that well. The left tackle has been, a disaster at this point in the season. Like, you got to make some things happen offensively. And so having Josh Simmons healthy, if that is what ends up happening and looking like in training camp in the regular season, then as you're talking about, the overall strategy of signing Jalen Moore, which gives you the ability to not have to reach or take somebody that if Josh Simmons was gone and the other tackles were gone, sitting there at number 31 or 32, are they going to take a guy that they have mid-second round because, well, we got to have a tackle?
Yeah.
I think that was maybe closer to what they did last year with Kingsley, but not this year because I think they identified Josh Simmons, somebody that they wanted. They saw the surgery. They saw the recovery. And, they signed Jalen Moore that gives them somebody that can play that spot in case. And if Josh Simmons is better, then great. If he's not early on, then Jalen Moore. But it feels like if Simmons is healthy, Moore's going to have to earn it. Simmons is going to have to earn it.
Yeah.
And if Jawan Taylor goes down or Simmons or Jalen Moore goes down, it's better to have those three guys and then Wanya Morris being your fourth rather than you've got Simmons and Jawan Taylor because you didn't go and get Jalen Moore because he was, was more expensive than somebody thought. It was Dan Moore money, which you weren't going to pay for a guy like Jalen Moore. So I love the strategy around the whole thing, and we'll see how healthy Josh Simmons is when they get to training camp. And if it's just conjecture, if it's just trying to instill confidence in him that, oh, don't worry, Josh, this isn't a redshirt year for you. No, he's further along than we thought. No, he's going to get this opportunity. But keep working hard. Keep getting out there. You better have the playbook ready to go because, you might be playing week 1. He's further along, and he's going to be ready in training camp. Whether that's the case with Kingsley, not to change the subject of just sort of to look at both of them, but you talked about Kingsley and one of the only positives to come out of that Denver Broncos game in Week 18, but then was asked, is his job to lose, right, as front runner? And he said he and Caliendo are working there. So
not Norzad.
I'd love to see Hunter Norzad work there too. Allegretti was a guy that was so good because he could snap the football and guard to guard, center guard. He could play any of those spots. And Norzad, I'd like to see if he can play those spots.
I wonder if he could get some snaps behind Trey Smith at right guard.
Could be.
If that's the case. If you can't come to a conclusion for long-term extension.
Yeah, Trey Smith wasn't present at OTAs. Hollywood Brown wasn't there. Again, it's voluntary. But everybody else seems like was there or not there because of an illness like a Rashee Rice.
I loved Isaiah Pacheco talking about getting his degree. I don't know why. I know it's not football related, but maybe a part of it is. Like, just the thought process of a guy that gets it, of him talking about the older gentleman that, went back and he was there getting his degree. I love him. Tallest man I think I've ever seen, which, by the way, if you're a tall man who went to
tallest
camp,
man in the tallest man, I guess, in his class or whatever.
Yeah, who went to Rutgers. If you're a tall, older gentleman who went to Rutgers and got your degree, it's pretty cool to just think, hey, maybe Isaiah Pacheco's talking about me. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, you motivated Pacheco to go get his degree. Good job.
But I like players. It's not necessarily just degree related, but who see the bigger picture, who understand the bigger picture, who they understand what it's like to work for it. And Matt Derrick had a great question of
was fantastic.
You came in with one of the best quotes saying, I'm looking to take a grown man's job. Well, now you're the grown man. What do you do now? I don't know. My thoughts where I have my concerns about Pacheco post-injury, what it looks like, but it's hard not to root for that guy. He's just such an easy dude to root for.
This is our concern, dude.
I love that question, by the way, from Matt Derrick. You had one of the great quotes, I'm here to take a grown man's job. Drafted in the 7th round. Well, guess what? They drafted a running back in the 7th round. He ain't exactly saying he's here to take a grown man's job, but you are the grown man now. Elijah Mitchell was signed. Smith was drafted. You got a couple of Kareem Hunt played last year.
It's brought back.
Yeah, you got options there in the backfield. And yeah, you worked your butt off to come back from injury. But to your point, I mean, some of that, or maybe it was Kent in the 11 o'clock hour, that, hey, he comes back from injury, but then it could also be used against him because he didn't look as good as he did before the injury or the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's before break.
Right.
That was what I was saying. Whereas it's being used against him where Jalen Watson, because he played well off of the torn labrum or didn't have surgery, he's a warrior. Look at him go and all this stuff. And then Pacheco comes back early from injury, at least a lot earlier than anyone expected. Looks bad. So we're using the fact that he fought his way back and played through. And I'm raising my hand because I'm part of the problem, I guess, and by saying he didn't look great when he came back. We're using it against him, while if Rashee Rice, because he didn't come back and because he had more time to heal up and all this stuff, we're saying, well, yeah, but that injury's behind him because we didn't see what he looked like. If Rashee Rice would have came back and looked bad the final game or two of the season, we'd be sitting here going, well, I don't know if he's looking like the same guy, because that's your last memory of the guy.
Well, I think also you have to acknowledge the possibility that, okay, well, he is a guy that's a very physical runner. He was a physical runner at Rutgers. He's a physical runner his 3 years with the Chiefs, and then he has that injury to his lower leg that's not, the easiest one to come back from. Brian Cook didn't look the same with after his, broken ankle and whatever that was. And so you've got Pacheco, I think you at least acknowledge the possibility that the explosiveness might be gone from that particular leg, and the fact that, again, you're talking about it being, his fourth year. Turkey Vulture's back again.
Just staring at my soul.
I tell you, it's got to get here before the show ends. Every day, it's got to come by just to see, hey, y'all still here? Okay, cool. All right.
Just to terrify me.
All right, well, see you tomorrow.
Uh-oh.
Big gulps, huh?
Slow walk.
Yeah.
Look at those talons.
Yeah, it's a vulture. So it's wearing a leather turkey mask of a vulture. Is what it's doing. It's a disgusting bird.
Hey.
It's that.
Maybe
that
that's
face
why
is
it
pretty
comes
gnarly.
at you. Okay.
Face is gnarly, man.
Be nice.
I am. That actually
Maybe
was.
it had surgery.
That actually was
Maybe
me
it was
being
in a
nice.
fire.
You understand the
Okay?
things I could say about it? That was me being nice. Okay.
It is an interesting bird.
No, it's not. There's nothing interesting about it.
It terrifies me.
It's a terrifying, awful looking.
It's a scavenger.
Bird. Yeah. Well, that's fine. Patrick Mahomes was asked about the wide receiver group, and he said, "We're fast." And then, of course, he had mentioned that, that the job is to test the defense down the field. And Andy Reid has challenged him this offseason to throw more down the field. That will open up everywhere else. Do we say, well, that sounds different than last year? Because, they were making a concerted effort to do that in OTAs and certainly training camp. But this year is different because Andy Reid has challenged him to do that. Andy Reid has set the challenge to Patrick Mahomes. I need you to throw the ball down the field more. You've got Xavier Worthy. Give him a chance to go and make a play. He's not just a guy that's fast, but he's a guy that will make a play. And last year, Andy Reid was asked about, the conversation that Adam Teicher and I had yesterday, and looking at the wide receiver group overall, and we saw the evolution and the growth, development of Xavier Worthy last year from first couple of games with Rashee Rice to then end of the season and being a guy that was moving around in different spots, and was asked about that. And Andy Reid was like, yeah, we know we can move him around a little bit more. He started doing that towards the end of last year. And that's what Patrick Mahomes said about, what he's learned about Xavier Worthy is that, he's not just fast, he makes plays. And then Xavier Worthy, the end of last year, that stepping stone, figuring out what Pat likes, sort of growing with him. So they all sort of learned together, and that's what I brought up with Adam Teicher, is those opportunities weren't there for Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown were fully healthy all year.
Yeah.
So in a way, I do think there's an argument to be made that the wide receiver group this year is better and more prepared than it would have been if Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown were healthy last year, mainly and almost specifically because of Xavier Worthy being pressed into more playing time and to more roles, and to be a guy that your impact now also comes in your production.
Yes.
In the counting stats. Your impact isn't just creating mismatches for others. Your impact now actually has to be in yards and catches and touchdowns too.
Well, this is what I've been saying for a large chunk of the offseason, and why I said we'll look back at last year as a very impactful, and we'll look at a better light on last year. The amount of injuries to those guys, and you're sitting there with a rookie yet again as basically wide receiver one and Xavier Worthy, just how it was the year prior. Well, now you really do have a nice array of weapons with Hollywood, with Rashee, and again, injuries aside, because we didn't think that was going to be the case last year. We were super excited with Rashee and Hollywood. But, man, I think if you told me Mahomes threw for 4,800 yards this year, yes, I'm buying.
Yeah.
I'm buying stock in Patrick looking like the Patrick of 3 years ago versus the guy the past maybe couple. I'm all into this offense looking like a top 5 offense all season long.
So the Women's College World Series continues. Oklahoma and Tennessee are playing right now. Again, another SEC matchup. But the cool part about this, besides, rooting against Todd Lebo, is that Carlin Pickens is pitching today. And Carlin Pickens broke the record for the fastest pitch last week at 79.4 miles an hour. You know what that translates to? 79.4 for a softball pitch translates to 111 on the mound.
It's absurd.
And by the way, the who was at bat, she fouled it off. 79.4, the program next.